All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. But the QA is the important part, stands for question and answer. We like to make this an interactive conversation. It's why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday. We can take a look back at the news over the last week. Maybe some news broke over the weekend or early this morning, and we can follow up on it, ask some questions about it, give some answers on it, really just kind of chat through these things as opposed to just seeing some headlines on social media and getting outraged. We really want to see and follow what's going on in the world of tech. Already seeing a good group of folks here in the live chat. We've got Jimmy Fire Dragon. Hoping everybody is having a nice Monday. We've got Ron. Unfortunately, Ron has to have his windshield replaced, but I'm hoping that our participation in this podcast can help entertain you while you're waiting for your windshield to be replaced. We got Demoto Killer. We got Command Control Device saying hi. Michael C2 looking at his Twitch Prime subscriptions. It's pretty great. Let me get that out of the way. Michael C2 saying, Juan, we'll never know how many attractive women in hot tubs were trying to get me to use that Prime subscription on them, but I held the line. Is that still the meta? I actually don't watch a lot of Twitch anymore. Things like Twitch, YouTube streaming, LinkedIn, I'm kind of just using them as like cheap server space to like stream video. I'm actually not consuming a ton of that content, but I do remember for a while there that the meta on Twitch was scantily clad women in little inflatable kiddie pools doing their streams like that, which is pretty gross. Just like this is hilarious. Like what content creation looks like today. We've got Ted wishing everyone a good morning. We got Scoop saying one. Gotta say Scoop. Again, just the random shout out there. If you haven't caught Scoop's wrestling photography book, it is some of the most gorgeously captured depictions of violence that you will ever find in any kind of book form. You should grab a copy of it. Simon says, Hypno saying, hello, everyone. Brian Billings. What's up, Brian? Hello, dropping in live for the first time in a bit during a lunch break. We'll be replaying Crew the rest of this later this week. Well, I'm glad you could stop by for a bit. That's really cool. Thanks for dropping in. Let me get this out of the way. I think of Jimmy, we got Michael, we got Simon. Okay. I feel like that is enough romper room. I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. As per usual, on the beginning of our weekly chat, getting into the world of technology, this last week was 4th of July weekend here in the United States. I have to admit to feeling a bit muted on celebrations of our country's coffee burp there, birthday, the 250th anniversary of our country's founding. We still tried to find what we wanted to celebrate. It's so weird. It's like, as an act of defiance, we wanted to be reasonable and measured in our celebration of our nation's history, but also sort of acknowledging our nation's current present situation. Just sucked some of the fun out of that. And of course, just with all of the news around us right now, it's just a little heavy. But we this is so silly. So for the 4th of July, in lieu of trying to race out and fight crowds and traffic and parking and find a fun fireworks show, we realized, like, hey, Lex is getting old enough for some of these old movies. What if we tried Independence Day? Classic adventure, alien attack, disaster movie. Marie and I like, hey, I think she's ready. There's one scene where we see Vivica A. Fox's like profession that's a little racy, but it's totally in like the safest way possible. Okay, let's give it a try. I was not prepared for how affected my daughter would be by the violence in the first half of that film. Realizing, like, Marie and I grew up in the '80s, and just how casually we treated violence for kids back then was kind of a shock. If it was cartoony, we grew up on action cartoons or Looney Tunes, right? Just think about how casually violent Looney Tunes are. Obviously for slapstick and satire, and it's funny, but growing up in the '80s, we had a very different relationship with violence than we do today, where the consequences of violence, I feel, are better understood in kids' media today. And you don't have the same sort of just easy action. But both Marie and I could tell stories about, hey, we were probably way too young when we started watching movies like Commando, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger with machine guns just laying waste to an entire army on an island. And like we were sort of fine with that. Or maybe my parents covered my eyes at certain scenes in The Terminator, but I was pretty young when I saw The Terminator. So these buildings start getting destroyed, and we're watching because like this is just like really cool cinematography. It's mostly models and miniatures. It's not CG. And she had to kind of like pause the movie on us and just ask like, so we're in the first third. We haven't even made it to the first dogfight with the fighter jets and the aliens. She makes us pause the movie and she asks like, is this gonna get more serious? I need you to promise me that no more people are gonna die. You're like, "Oh, no." She doesn't understand the structure of, like, '80s and '90s action flicks. And at once you feel like, "Oh, I haven't done my job as a parent in preparing her for a hard world." But on the other hand, you're like, "Also, awesome for us that we've raised this kid who is watching a movie, and the emotional stakes in the movie are affecting her." We get to the end of the film, and she has fun, and she's going with us by the end of the movie. But man, it was touch and go there for a minute. I should have clocked this because she watched some of Pacific Rim with me, and she said the first half of Pacific Rim made her feel ill. And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I could see that." For movies made for me, I'm just like, "Hey, why doesn't that giant robot just punch that monster more?" But she's actually thinking like, "Oh, and what about all those people in those cities who are getting stomped on?" You're like, "Oh, no." So, that was our 4th of July. Our little neighborhood also does this cute drone show, so we got to watch drones do really cool, fancy things. Anymore, especially with all the recent wildfires all around us, anything we can do to sort of reduce the amount of incendiary aerial devices in our neighborhood would be just fine. I gotta say, like, there's something really fun about having a fun DJ, listening to some classic rock and some Americana and some like older safe hip hop, and then seeing drones fly around and like create these different shapes and these different use. Like one of the really cool things was like the drones did like the outline of a feather quill and wrote "We the People." Like the crowd goes wild. Stuff like that was so wholesome and was so fun and didn't require tons of smoke and explosives that could have set the hillsides on fire. Um, Anymore, I'd really like to see more of that. After last night, or the drone show was last night, not on July 4th. It was on July 5th. But we'll be looking for drone shows in the future, I think, over fireworks displays. It was really cool. So, yes, I hope your 4th of July weekend was fun and food filled and celebratory in whatever ways you wanted to celebrate. Brian Billings, a fireworks show I covered in my large ish 200,000 population, I think largest city, town, was an awful experience Friday. Had much more fun at my city, 25,000 population on Saturday, parked downtown at 9:20. Enjoyed show over the river at 10, home by 10:50. It doesn't need to be like New Year's, right? 4th of July, as soon as the sun sets, let's have a light show and go home. I don't need to stay up till midnight. But that's also why we didn't try to go to one of these fireworks shows because it's so hard getting there. You have to get there so early. You have to find parking. Now, all of like the areas are really leaning into like vendors and food trucks, and stuff is just getting so expensive, and you're surrounded by people and it's hot, and I don't know, it just hasn't been super fun of late. Or buying a tube, or enough toxic smoke to lower the air quality to near unlivable. Absolutely true there too. So, uh, happy July 4th. I hope you all had a great weekend. I'm gonna jump into some housekeeping now because last week I was traveling. It was my grandmother's 90th birthday, and this woman is sharp and clear and still partying hard. And we had family all get together so that we could celebrate her 90th. I just have this amazing photo of my nana at 90. And just like we tried to do like a big group, we did a big group family photo, which of course is my job. Kudos to the Vivo X300 Ultra for being an excellent camera to use for those kinds of group setups, which is in between. I'm kind of getting family positioned and moved around. And there was just this one moment where she was alone on the couch, making eye contact with her great grandson. And I hit the shutter, and it's just this cute little moment of her like peeking over at great grandson. And you're like, oh my God, the whole trip to go visit my grandmother was worth that one photo right there. I love family. Travel just is making me super anxious these days, and just landing that moment was wonderful. So last week we had an interview with attorney Whitney Ray DeBona. She's an attorney with a law firm that hosts the program Drug Watch. Drug Watch, they facilitate lawsuits sort of based on negligence or unsafe business practices. They've mostly been focused on drugs in the cosmetics industry, but they've turned their sights to roadblocks. So last week, it was a longer interview. It was about 40 minutes getting to chat with her, just because I feel like we lose sight in all the headlines and all the social media. We lose sight of what the scope of these actions really look like. I'm sure everyone in this chat has seen a headline about a lawsuit against Roblox. And if you see a bunch of headlines, you're probably thinking, well, those are multiple headlines, probably about the same couple of lawsuits. But last I checked, there were over 150 active lawsuits against Roblox that are now all being collected. And we could see a collective class action style approach to further litigation against Roblox. So she was kind of to take some time, sort of explain the law that's happening around this situation right now. And then also her law firm has been working. They published a really great article kind of talking about the history of Roblox and how to keep your kids safe. So it was excellent material. She was amazing. She was really fun to talk to. So I hope folks got to catch that last week. I think I'm going to pull the stream version of that and upload a nicer quality version of the conversation that we had. But in the meantime, you can still catch the nuts and bolts of what we talked about last week. Now I'm gonna screen share here because I did get quite a bit stuff out. Quite a bit stuff out. Wow, that was an utter failure of talking the English. Um, over the last 2 weeks, I'm not going to go through everything, but the main things that got published public, things that you can catch on somegadgetguide.com or on my YouTube channel. The Camrui P2 Mini PC, is it inexpensive or is it cheap? This to me is starting to become a concerning trend. And we have a story about a mini PC manufacturer this week on the podcast. I do not like where this is heading. But in an effort to keep costs lower, we're starting to see mini PC manufacturers get really creative about the pieces that they use in their mini PCs. Over 5 years of little laptop chip evolution, I would be concerned about someone shopping a mini PC like the P2 if they've purchased a PC within the last 5 years. So you could buy an inexpensive, this is not an expensive mini PC, but the price to performance is very concerning for what I think people would expect if they were replacing a machine that was less than 6 years old. So I have a whole video explaining what I mean by that. My rambling there was very confusing. Moving on, I know I've been teasing this for a bit. I finally finished it. The 1 month with the Pebble Time 2 smartwatch on only one charge. Uh, I love the Pebble Time 2. Um, I used it on this recent trip to go visit my grandmother. Like, it is so refreshing charging a full computer smartwatch that can do speech to text, has advanced notification support, has all kinds of fun little applets that you can play with, now has daily heart rate tracking. Like, this is a great tinkering geeky watch. But in this video, considering the price point, because it's not a cheap watch, it's not the most expensive, but it's not cheap, I do have to ask, has the Pebbles moment passed? Or are there other solutions that people are probably going to be a better fit for other folks at lower price points? So I have a lot of thoughts, but I still am utterly charmed by the mission of Pebble. I just feel like I have to be very specific about the potential customer for a Pebble smartwatch. Moving right along. Oh, there's the post for the Roblox lawsuits interview with Whitney. So that's on somegadgetguy.com. Then I'm gonna flip these. So because it's getting so hot out, the folks at Sony sent over a test drive for the Rion Pocket Plus Pro, and it's cool. I just said it's cool because it's cool, and it cools you because it's cool. Um, those little game clip-on cooling fans. So a lot of people think like it's just a fan that tries to like cool the back of your device, but the really effective ones are Peltier coolers. It's a metal plate that when electricity goes through this device, the plate gets really, really cold really, really fast. So a lot of the coolers that we see people wear are like neck fans. Some of those neck fans also have Peltier coolers. They're really expensive. But what Sony is doing is trying to make one that's a little more discreet. So this is like one of those game clip-on coolers, but for your back. And so you just have this metal plate that gets super, super cold, just pressed up against your back. I shared some thoughts on what it was like to have sort of an exhaust vent out by my neck. And wrapping up our housekeeping this week, this one was special for me. And of course, I'm going to get real pissy and real cranky about this. For 2 days, I was the only person on YouTube with a long form review of this product. Now, a lot of people are going to rush out of the woodwork to say, oh, but it's a expensive headphone. Not many people are going to buy expensive headphone. When has that ever stopped people from watching a video about an expensive headphone, especially a video where I have some criticisms if you've liked previous versions of this headphone? And of course, because I'm not talking about a Apple smartphone, this video tanked on YouTube. I keep regurgitating this. I keep cycling on this. YouTube is not a place for content discovery. YouTube is not a place for you to find audience. YouTube kind of like gimmicks their algorithm. Like if I had a brand new channel and I was like a peppy 22-year-old, like I'm out of college. Look, I make YouTube videos. Look at this fancy cinematography and here are all the affiliate links. YouTube would go crazy for about a month just promoting my channel, and then you get suckered into appeasing the YouTube algorithm, right? I'm old and crusty, but for 2 whole days, a well-respected audio brand with a premiere, this is like a crown jewel product for this company, almost no traffic, almost none at all. So I know this is not getting put under the noses of people that would genuinely be interested in conversations about headphones. I'm not spreading beyond. And it's just more proof that what seems to be happening to these kinds of videos is I have 180,000 subscribers. YouTube is probably sending my video and alerts and like putting it out in search for the people least interested in this kind of product. For all the behavioral data that Google has on us, these videos never seem to make it to the people who would be most interested in these kinds of videos. So, Odyssey MM520 professional headphones. What does $1,700 sound like? And I just think so many people are going to love that headphone. Anyone with sort of anyone who's sort of considering professional mixing, mastering, but there's something about this headphone that has this kind of overlap where it could be an audiophile solution too. And I know $1,700 sounds like a lot of money, but I'm talking about end game. Like you've tried tons of different headphones, you've listened to different speakers, you know what your tastes are, you've got a little experience, you've got some education, and then you could arrive on something like this. And then this is a headphone that could maybe last the rest of your life. And like you would really like what this headphone does. I don't know that it's the professional headphone for me. And that was really difficult to parse. And it's a 20-minute video. It was really difficult for me to parse because like in every section where I wanted to be overly critical, I would also have to pull back and say, I feel the changes Odyssey have made are going to make for a better, broader mainstream experience for how I learned to record and for the kinds of products that I like. It's lacking in these little areas that, again, I don't think are gonna bother anyone else who listens on this headphone. So I'm really curious now because Odyssey had a headphone called the MM500 that came out before this, and it was kind of divisive. I really liked the MM500. A couple other people who are audiophile and headphone reviewers and people that have built reputations solely in that space just for talking about ridiculously expensive headphones. Some of them said really nice things about the MM500, and some people were very critical, very dismissive of the MM500. It was not a broad, everybody likes this kind of headphone because it's pricey. It was a very divisive headphone. So now with the changes to the MM520, I'm curious, are the people who liked the 500 going to be critical of the 520, kind of like I was? And are people who were critical of the 500, are these changes going to be enough for them to like the 520? So now it's going to be a spectator sport because I know a few creators where I genuinely believe this is going to get kind of the same glowing review that the 500 got, and solely because Odyssey is a very well respected headphone manufacturer and this is a very expensive headphone, so it must be goodest, right? I feel like we're going to see a lot of that goalpost moving like, oh, well, I know they changed some things from the 500. And I said the 500 was an excellent headphone and like one of the best ever made. But you know, I was listening again and I compared. And now I really think that the refines and the changes and the 2K, 3K bump and the 1K bump and this and that and the highs and the lows. I'm ready for the people who get tons more traffic on headphone videos to play the game of moving their earnestly held opinions around to kind of support whatever is most popular and most expensive. So, those are the biggies. That Odyssey video, I was really happy with how that came out. That's a big deal product for someone like me because I adore sound and audio and recording and listening and music are like my first passions in technology. Like from when the day my dad got me COS DJ headphones, so I wouldn't be disturbing the rest of the family by listening on my crappy like clock radio speaker at full volume, distorting upstairs. And he goes like, "Oh, I can't handle this. Here's like a small little stereo, and here are some COS are good headphones. Listen on the headphones. Please don't keep harassing us with your music on speakers." Ever since then, I have adored the experience of listening to music, to speech, to movie soundtracks, to special effects, to sound effects. Like, I just, I love it so much. And it's just such a shame that, like, what I started building my entire channel on originally was like home recording kit. And I can get tons of traffic today on an 8-year-old Focusrite audio interface video. I have a video that still regularly just pops up. So I have these dummy accounts that I like to try and suss out what like YouTube does. So I'll watch a video in one of my dummy accounts and then I'll see, does it even recommend any of my videos? And it will find like, well, you watched this video on a recent smartwatch. You must want to watch a video from him from 10 years ago talking about a specialty piece of recording hardware. So I know for a fact that YouTube is absolutely messing with me. Who? Who in this chat? I know I've lost people by talking about a $1,700 pair of headphones. You're probably tuning me out right now, right? Because you want to talk about, we've got like data centers to talk about, we've got AI to talk about, we've got RAM to talk about, we've got game consoles to talk about. You're not with me on a $1,700 headphone. So if you're watching one of my videos about a smartwatch, is the follow-up video a decade-old audio interface? Is that what's going to convince you to click on another one of my videos? I don't think so. So I know YouTube does not have my best interests at heart. But I've seen this Focusrite video pop up so often on my dummy accounts. It's like YouTube really wants my other accounts to see this video, even though I haven't trained those algorithms in any way on my old audio videos. It is maddening how much social media really does feel like it's designed to make you fail until you only do what is the absolute most popular thing to do with that algorithm. It's like YouTube is saying, until you make all your videos about the Samsung Galaxies, we just don't know what to do. If I put out a video about Samsung, it's going to do 10x traffic immediately. It's like everything they can do to just hurt you until you do what they want you to do. So it's very demoralizing. From Darcy, I'm 100% the audience for the Pebble. Darcy, I know it, man. Like, and again, people in my chat here too. I know so many of you are going to dig on that Pebble, but I'm really talking more broadly. Like, is there a way to encourage people to look at some of the more expensive smartwatches out there? Because even I'm talking to my mom and she liked the size of the Pebble, but for what she wants a little more fitness tracking. And like, I don't know. She's given up on Fitbit. I think she might need to look at something like a Amazfit next. So it's just tricky to me in my brain, kind of trying to figure out who is the right fit for this and can you reach that potential consumer. Simon says Hypno. Again, after the Sony Rion. So what Juan is saying is that his back is a Snapdragon 888. Well, at least thank you for making it an 888 and not an 8 Gen 1. Because, man, I run hot, but I hope I'm not overheating that badly. From Unclealio, Uncle Lau. I'm real good at reading usernames. Is there a possibility you can get an electric shock with that? Absolutely. Anytime you have batteries against skin, if you're using the product in an unsafe manner, probably. The video describes kind of some of the limitations of the product and some of the expectations you should have. So you should definitely watch the video if you're concerned about the durability. From Arthur Lee Brown, YouTube doesn't care about the long form reviews of the headphones. It's only interested in 30-second portrait-oriented shorts with all sorts of sound effects and GIFs, except for the fact that there is a community of audiophile listeners. And when an expensive headphone comes out, there are channels that get roughly 50 times the traffic that I got to this video. Now, I'm not saying my general tech channel should automatically just get the same amount of traffic. But if you had a 2-day exclusive on a really expensive, even if you're just watching the video because you're interested in the freak show of spending $1,700 on a pair of headphones, to say that YouTube doesn't care about that when I know other video channels are going to get 50, 80, 100,000 views on there. It's like you're only allowed if you have funneled your audience into one topic. and then that video is never allowed to stray to any other audiences. And I'm not going to run 6 YouTube channels so I can talk about consumer electronics for music and consumer electronics for photography and consumer electronics for iPhones and consumer electronics for TVs. I set up playlists. I did what YouTube asked me to do. From Mr. Maug, that video actually did reach my feed. Well, I hope you watched it, Mr. Maug. Thanks for letting me know. Simon says, no, let me guess. Not enough mids. Spoilers, man. I can't spoil the video. It's a really good video. You should watch the video, see if you were right. Oh, you're okay. You did watch the video. Well, thanks. Brian Billings, I'm listening and dreaming of those headphones. Man, I got to tell you, like, I love Odyssey so much. It was painful. Like, oh, I'm listening to this. I have a criticism. I love it. From Rob Aarons, I'm late, but I'm here typing this on the Clicks Power Keys. I hope you're digging it. It was so fun getting to play with those in Vegas. I like with my limited gadget spend budget, I was thinking like I should pick up the Clicks, but I really just want the phone. I really just want the communicator. So I held back on not grabbing the Clicks. It was one of those things like I know for a fact in my use, it'd be something I used heavily for a week. Then I'd put it down for a little bit, switch phones, play with different phones. Oh, can I stick this on? Okay, maybe I just got to get an adapter for a case. Then I can snap it on. And little bit by little bit, I would just have it sit off to the side and I wouldn't use it anymore. It's honestly kind of happening to the selfie screen that I got from, it was a DJI. I can't remember now. My brain is Swiss cheese. So, here, let me get this out of the way. Yeah, command control device. But YouTube wants you to have double-digit amount of channels for every consumer product category. Just make your channel absolutely singular to one type of product, and then you have specialized, and YouTube will know what to do. I don't know. I'm so old and so bitter because I remember when YouTube was a fun place to discover things, and this current flavor of algorithmically sorted content is not about helping you find new things. It's about maintaining popularity, which is really gross. So, everything that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to take a. Oh, no, wait, there was one more bit of housekeeping. This is so funny. I get these kinds of pitches and press releases a lot. It is exceedingly rare that a company singles me out or specializes this pitch to this degree. I need everybody to know this is a very important accomplishment. This is a very big deal. I don't know that y'all know if you're tuning into this podcast, but you are currently listening to the number 28 ranked California-based podcast that covers technology. Yeah, I know. I just rocked your socks. I just blew your mind. That is exactly what I felt too. I had no idea that I was deserving of this accolade. That there are only 27 California-based podcasts about technology better than mine. So if you go to, I gotta share this. If you go to millionpodcasts.com, there's number 28, Talking Tech with some gadget guy. Right above 29, the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast brought to you by Custom Business Solutions. So I'm ranked below Medsiders, Moonshots with Peter Diamandis, Dev Interrupted, The Modern Acre, Women in Tech, the Tech Trek, Mac Break Weekly, The Full Nerd, MIT Technology Review, Big Technology Podcast, Design Better, Latent Space, Tech Nation, Daily Tech Headlines, that's number 12, Bloomberg, Windows Weekly, and I love it. It's like Windows Weekly Audio and Windows Weekly Video are the 8 and 9. So it's like, man, that that's tough. Context Machine, Intelligent Machines, but the number one is Tech News Weekly. So m- uh number 28, that's me, baby. Not the number 28 in tech. I'm the number 28 in California based tech podcasts. So I appreciated the heads up. That press release was was pretty hardcore. Like, hey, isn't this so exciting? You're like, wow. I don't know how honored I should feel. Oh man. So let me take a drink of coffee, then we got to get into some actual news. I went way too long on cranky rants there. So hold on one second. Michael C2. If you include the redundant ones, you're actually more like 25th. All right. Everything we're going to be talking about this week, all of the show notes, all of the articles and links, and of course, all of the housekeeping, all the stuff that I've published, everything will be sourced and cited on somegadgetguide.com. Excuse me, man, I am really coffee burping all over here. I'm so sorry about that. Where of course you can find the replay, the audio replay, the video replay, and of course there's the Patreon version on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, where I clean it up a little bit more, kind of shorten it just a bit. It's a touch more editing. But again, everything, I always appreciate folks who are sharing the live stream, sharing the replay, and jumping in to have these kinds of conversations and chats. Um, again, it matters a lot for those of you who are sharing and reviewing. If you review the podcast and you give it a good review on your favorite podcast service. So, a quick follow up. We did cover this story months ago, but we're going through rounds and rounds and rounds of appeals. I don't know anyone in this chat. You tell me if you feel like these numbers that are like record breaking numbers for these technology companies sound like they will actually change corporate behavior. Because anymore, this doesn't sound sufficient. Coming by way of Ars Technica, our first story is written up by Ryan Whitman. Google loses long running appeal of record EU fine, will have to cough up 4.7 billion. Back in 2018, back 8 years ago, Google was handed a record-setting 4.3 billion euro, or roughly a 4.9 billion American dollar fine in Europe for abusing its monopoly on Android. The company has spent the intervening years challenging that decision, but the continent's highest court has put a stop to that. The Court of Justice of the European Union has affirmed the penalty, meaning Google is out of options. Um, Google's fight may not have turned out the way the company wanted, but it wasn't for nothing. The initial amount was trimmed slightly by a lower court in 2022, bringing the total to a still record-setting 4.1 billion euros. And that looks like the amount Google will have to pay since there are no further avenues for appeal. Now, first of all, inflation has already made the fine less. Are we charging interest on 8 years of delaying this one? If you got a credit card bill for $4 billion and you held off on paying that for 8 years, what would be the juice on that? Can someone do the math? I feel like the compounding interest of just sitting on that fine should be significantly higher today. Secondly, I don't know about y'all. I prefer Android over iOS, but really that's kind of a false dichotomy. There's very little competition that I can rely on for a cutting edge, hardware, exciting, um, content creator, gaming, consumer electronics experience. I want Linux to get there. I'm not excited when it's like you've got a Fairphone or a OnePlus 6T and you can install Linux and do basic phone things on it. Don't care. I'm sorry. I want to be more excited about that stuff and I want to support those developer initiatives, but I just can't. It's got to be kind of a flavor of Android or iOS. I'm going to lean Android. That doesn't mean that I haven't been viciously disappointed in Google's more recent business practices where they're ratcheting Android even more. Part of this case from 2018 was Google's monopolistic control and the pressure that they could put on manufacturers who wanted to use Google products and services in their Android phones. If you remember back, this is a way that Google could help kill initiatives like Amazon trying to make their own operating system based on Android, right? You went and said, "Hey, I want to make this Android phone." Google would say, "Well, if you want any of your devices to have access to Google services, then all of your phones need to be compliant in this way." And the EU said, "No, that's stupid. If a manufacturer wants to make a device that doesn't, pre-install the entire Google accessories, the Google software suite, you have to be able to let them do that." And Google lost that case and fought the fines for 8 years. And over those 8 years, do we think that Android has gotten more open or less open? I know how I feel, but maybe I have it wrong. No, there's a phone that's talking. Okay, this is funny. So my Pixel just started explaining to me how Android has become more open. I thought I had turned this phone off. This is hilarious. Hold on. I'm gonna turn off the volume here. I'm gonna read this because the AI is gonna talk to me about this. Depending on how you look at it, Android has actually become both more open and more closed over those 8 years. You're right, AI. Good job. I'm so glad that data centers are destroying the planet and the environment right now to give me that really insightful retort to me ranting about how all of this has gone down. What is Are you flipping kidding me? I can't tell you. I have disabled this phone. I'm just going to shut you off. I'm getting ready to write a video about how disappointed I am in the Pixel 10 Pro. This has been one of my least favorite phones of all time. And every time I turn it on, it's like fighting me with software stuff that then just encourages me to shut it back off again. Arthur Lee Brown, charging Google $4 billion is like charging me the loose change under my bed. After 8 years in a holding pattern, how much money has Google made with similar, if not exactly the same kinds of business practices? Because there's been no penalty for them to employ those kinds of business practices. This is horrifically insufficient. It's a record-breaking fine from 8 years ago. JGJ is saying definitely less open, becoming what they competed against. I would kind of vibe with that. There are only a few little things left in Android that keep me on Android, where if Apple would ever get over themselves, I would feel far less conflicted switching to an iPhone. It's down to a handful of pain points that I cannot let go. Like, for example, like yesterday, I sent my buddy, he's another softball dad. I found this wacky video. It's a woman who is an incredible softball pitcher hitting moving targets. And it's a silly video. Like, will a game controller survive getting hit by a softball? And of course, the controller explodes into pieces. It's shot beautifully in the slow motion video. And his daughter's a pitcher. So I make a joke like, "Oh, wouldn't this be so funny if this was the new drill you work with your daughter?" So I downloaded the video out of Firefox just because I don't want to send him to a Reddit page. Download the video and I send the video over to him. He can't watch the video. The iPhone just can't play the video. He just gets a black box. It's so weird. It's a 15 meg MP4. He can't. His iPhone Pro just can't watch this video. So I upload it to OneDrive and I send him a link. And he clicks on the link, and the iPhone tells him, oh, well, we can't stream a video from this cloud storage provider. You're like, dude, the joke wasn't worth this. Your iPhone is messing with you, man. I had to retort. I was like, man, I didn't realize iPhones can't do anything. Here's the link to the Reddit page. Watch it there. And I'm so mad. Regardless, if Apple could get over some of this basic file management and how locked and prohibitive everything is on the iPhone, I know I just realized like that's a huge if, that'll never happen, but I could switch. Like, I'm so tired of trying to pretend that Google isn't trending in that direction. Ted is saying Androids can now airdrop to iPhones. That's got to be worth something. Not because of Apple. Apple really didn't want that to happen. Brian Billings, that just took 3 liters of water out of the Hollywood reservoir for that answer. If you think about it, Android is actually more open and less open. I'm so mad. Yeah, from JGJ, if Linux can work on laptops and gaming, then why not a truly open mobile OS? I mean, there's still technically some token efforts being made. What, like Ubuntu Touch? Is that still a thing? But I keep looking at like what the hardware crisis has done. I was hoping Next Phone. I love the Next Dock. I use the Next Docks regularly, especially in my mini PC reviews. And that Next Phone just looks so cool. And I know it would still be an Android device, and I'd be running sort of a little container or virtual machine for Linux. But I would want to do that, and we just can't get something like that off the ground at any kind of scale. Eugene Deb saying I can't use an iPhone unless they actually let me install the apps that aren't on the App Store, and they allow real versions of browsers, not reskinned versions of WebKit. Which, I mean, I'm with you. It wouldn't take a lot philosophically to get me over to the iPhone, and they would be token efforts that wouldn't be a massive concern for the majority of iPhone users, but you could pull a lot of us nerds over. And I just know Apple won't do it. I just know Apple will never give up the reins on that level of control. There is no reason, if a MacBook Neo can be powered by the same chip as an iPhone Pro, there's no reason why an iPhone Pro plugged into a monitor shouldn't be able to use Mac OS. No reason. No reason at all. You can even make a really expensive dock. Like, here's my wireless chart. I don't actually plug this in. This is the AirVook charger from my OnePlus. It's got a fan. It tries to help cool the back plate of this. You could set up an iPhone, snap it on there, have a Peltier cooler. They're pretty fancy. And you could cool the iPhone while it's working as someone's main home PC. There's no reason except Apple's greed. I'm so tired of arguing with nerds on stuff like that. You should want to get more out of your device. Well, you can't expect Apple to just do something disruptive. Yes, I can. I can expect a market leader to lead the market. So dumb. But anyway, Google now finally has to pay a $4 billion fine. And I'm sure they've learned their lesson over dragging this out over 8 years. So it's pretty great. Pretty great. JFR 43. I don't know what kind of iPhone is that, but I don't have that issue on mine. iPhone 16 Pro Max. He has an iPhone 16 Pro Max. And if I try to send him a video, or if I try to send him a link to OneDrive, can't do anything. Also happened once where I was trying to send him his daughter's softball team. I went to one of their games and I shot photos. I shot photos with the lens attachments on the amazing Vivo X300 Ultra. And let me tell you, not many parents got to see those photos on the day. Even though the Vivo supports AirDrop, like Ted was saying, Vivo was one of the first outside of Samsung and Google to start getting support. And I would tell them, just set your AirDrop to everyone for 10 minutes. Oh, where are the settings? And I just don't think I can do it. Is that safe? Is that going to be safe? Are people going to be able to like AirDrop me viruses? I'll upload the photos to a cloud storage device, cloud storage bucket, and you can download from there. And none of those parents got to see the photos on their iPhone. One of the other coach dads on his MacBook downloaded the photos, and then I messaged them to the other parents on the team. I don't know. I know Microsoft sucks, but OneDrive as just bulk cloud storage is fine, except if you're on an iPhone, apparently. Then it's a problem. So anyway, people talking about Ubuntu Touch, I really have to kind of move on. I'm just really disappointed that there's like no actual justice here. Google paying this fine is not justice anymore, because we also haven't stopped companies like Google from engaging in terrible business practices. And Vonnegut, this is why I was really a big fan of people like Elizabeth Warren. You got to start talking about it, or these companies feel they're untouchable. Vonnegut says they should be breaking Google up at this point. Excuse me. And no one wanted to support Elizabeth Warren as a presidential candidate, but she was one of the few who managed to enact some meaningful policy and regulations against the banking industry after 2008. She was one of the few that could have given us a more reasonable policy against tech companies, if only to threaten, if you keep doing this, we will look at divestiture. And that would probably do more to get these companies in line than, we're going to fine you $1 billion. And what was your revenue last fiscal quarter? $80 billion. So this is 1/80th of your quarterly revenue? Cool. I'm sure they've learned their lesson. It's great. It's great. Moving right along. Because again, the scams just keep on scamming. We've been talking about OpenAI and their issues with, one, how they're just horrifically losing money. They're not a viable business model. They are a total grift at this point. This is coming by way of Reuters. Yeah, they don't put bylines on Reuters. OpenAI proposes handing Trump administration a 5% stake. OpenAI has discussed giving the US government a 5% stake. Oh, the Financial Times reported on Thursday, as AI firms face scrutiny in Washington over the likely misuse of advanced models and whether Americans would benefit from the industry's massive valuations. Wow, I wonder if Americans are benefiting from a couple of narcissistic geeks promising to make AI that will end everybody's jobs has caused massive and rampant consumer electronics inflation and is destroying the environment. I wonder what the consumer benefit might be. It's a total mystery to me, but I'm just pointing this story out because I want us to follow this. This isn't a security story. Oh, what about these advanced models? We were so afraid of Claude and Anthropic and these new models. These new models are just going to be so powerful. OpenAI recently did another round of funding. Their valuation is now ridiculously overvalued for a company that's still saying they will not entertain the possibility of discussing profitability until like 2030. That they are going to shovel money and components into wood chippers and furnaces for at least the next 4 or 5 years before they can even start discussing some roadmap to profitability. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars and infrastructure and damage to the environment to someday maybe be profitable. If you can't see evidence that this current AI souffle is starting to crater, this is one of the moves that is a telltale sign of a narcissist trying to get his way. Because if there was a viable business model here, he would not need to turn to the government. The last round of funding from OpenAI, remember, NVIDIA was committed to a $100 billion stake in another round. The valuation of OpenAI was going to be hundreds of billions of dollars, and they pulled back. They still invested some money in OpenAI, but shortly after that, Jensen Huang was out there saying, hey, we've really got to scale back on our investments in AI startups. Even Jensen Huang stepping back, when the whole shell game is NVIDIA will give you $100 billion, and most of that money is going to go into buying services or infrastructure that's going to put that money right back into NVIDIA's coffers. So OpenAI couldn't invest the company who's selling the shovels and pickaxes during the gold rush to invest more. Who's left? Who's left that can funnel hundreds of billions of dollars into OpenAI? Nobody's left. They have squeezed all of the blood out of the investment stones out there. There is nobody left to keep bolstering OpenAI's stock price, to keep showing some kind of growth in their valuation. The only thing that's left is to start grifting directly into the United States government and getting taxpayers to fuel this AI speculation. It's the only scam left for OpenAI until until they can demonstrate. They can't. There is no roadmap where they can demonstrate in the near term some kind of practical return. So just like every other billionaire grift out there, you've got to get the government tied directly to some of these services in ways that it's difficult to untangle, so that they always have to keep paying in. If it's like SpaceX and satellite launches, you need the government, and taxpayers are going to directly subsidize these terrible business models. This is where we're left. We've got to keep an eye on OpenAI, because if OpenAI just bursts, if that stock just plummets, that's going to be bad for the huge stake Oracle has. It's going to be bad for, I think, the remaining stake that Microsoft has. It's going to be bad for what's left of data center investment. OpenAI could be a domino that starts off a chain reaction that could be catastrophic for the investment community. Yeah, but again, taxpayers foot the bill. Taxpayers take all the pain. Your grandparents' retirement fund is going to get wrecked because of these kinds of investment opportunities. They've been doing so well so far, but the market correction for this will be extreme if it's just a sudden pop. OpenAI is a useless company. They provide nothing of any substantial value. They are going to be an albatross around the necks of every portfolio, every firm, every investment banker. This could get really bad. I think the best case scenario in the near term is to see OpenAI fail a bit more, hopefully not get money directly from the federal government, and then get carved up for parts. If that can happen, then there's at least some saving face. Like there's some like token effort. Like, well, yeah, I mean, AI is going to be the thing, but Sam Altman just like really overpromised and underdelivered. Yeah, I mean, you can't out Google Google. Google has all the data, so Gemini is the AI, and that's going to be great. If you can kind of keep up some of the appearances, it's not going to be abject catastrophe. But when this stuff falls, it falls fast. And this is not a good sign. This is a very bad sign if they're actively courting the federal government. For Donald has the right idea. Just don't use it. Simon says, Hypno, AI is the Brexit of tech. Unfortunately, it's just really bad. A command control device. How long till they attempt to make local LLMs illegal? Oh, wait. Arthur Lee Brown. The main consumer benefit is that you'll never have to write an email again, except for the fact that I'll be stuck in a future where I don't get to write the email. I'm just constantly rewriting the crap email that AI tries to create for me. So frustrating. I don't know. I highly recommend you pick up some kind of container program like anything LLM and play with some models. Some of these models are really fun to play with. They use local compute power. They don't go out to the internet. You can see that they're a little slower sometimes. Actually, if you've got a faster machine, some of the more recent, like a 2-year-old CPU, laptop CPU, can run these really, really well. But like watching Gemini answer my question about whether or not Android is more open, and I can literally see it parsing words, and my laptop can parse those words just as fast locally without hitting a data center and a data connection. I know the compute power on these newer models has actually refined. I understand some investment in that would be a benefit. The ability to sort through all of my scripts and look for information, really cool. And I don't need a data center to do that. I want people to play with some of this stuff because when used appropriately for things like finding bits of info in a document, like this is another one, Microsoft Search. Terrible, right? I've got over 10 years of documents, articles, scripts, editorials, reviews. I've got an incredible amount, a library of writing that I've done. And searching in Word is totally useless. If I'm trying to remember some funny thing that I did in a video from like 6 years ago, I can't find it. Now I can, thanks to language models. That is a much bigger perk. But I'm doing it in language models that aren't connected to the web. So I really want people to play with this stuff. There's I can't remember what the name of it is on phones. I don't even know if I still have it installed on my Vivo. I might not be able to find it. Oh, Pocket Pal. Pocket Pal is a little shaky. Pocket Pal can crash a lot, but Pocket Pal is another way. On your phone, with your phone NPU, you can host a smaller model, and it is ridiculously fun to play with. A little chatbot that lives on your phone and doesn't fart your information all over the internet. Use that stuff. Play with it. But this idea that like, oh yeah, I mean, AIs are going to do all these things for us. Like, no, it is total crap. And we're seeing the effects of that on the daily. It may be a decent little assistant to do some coding work. It's kind of a nice little way to summarize longer messages, emails, documents, but you still need to read through the document because the LLM is going to get a bunch of stuff wrong. It's never going to deliver what they promise, and we're going to keep wrecking everyone's life to support it. Because case in point, our next two stories, I'm gonna keep these brief because they're massive downers. Associated Press, written up by Matt O'Brien and Caitlin Huamani. Huamani, I think is how you pronounce her name. Heat adds to strains on areas with data centers, raising the temperature on AI debates. From later in the article, hot weather of the kind sweeping the eastern United States drives up electricity demand for data centers, adding to their strain on power grids and worsening air quality for the surrounding areas. Who could have predicted that data centers just going up faster than our build out of clean energy would be contributing more to the exact kind of pollution that is causing climate instability and temperatures this summer to get even hotter? Boy, it's so much fun looking at Europe in 40 degrees Celsius weather. This is so great. It's awesome because also, for all the nerds that keep telling me, like, well, like water cooling really isn't even that bad. Like, data centers do a great job of of looping the water, and evaporative cooling can actually be good for some areas because the water evaporates and then it goes back into the water table, which is a lie, especially in arid climates. It goes up into the sky, sure, but it doesn't really recirculate back into the water table the way that these bootlicking AI apologists try to account for. But when the water does get reclaimed, we have this to worry about now, written up by Luke James over at Tom's Hardware. Meta data center water discharges suspended after contaminating the city's reclamation water supply with bacterium. System offline for months for cleaning. Closed loop cooling system purge spread rare metal resistant bacteria in Cheyenne's water system. So, you can do closed loop cooling. Oh, you don't even know what you're talking about, because closed loop cooling doesn't mean that all the water is going to get pulled out of the area. You're just spreading FUD. And now here's a practical example of water gets gross when you keep it in a loop for too long, right? So Meta dumped this water with bacteria directly into this area's water system. So it's going to be on the local facility and the taxpayers to prevent people from getting sick because of Meta's discharges. And yeah, who could have foreseen that closed loop cooling might introduce other issues when we're talking about clean water and keeping people safe? So time and time again, I just saw another. I didn't put the link in the show notes. I wasn't going to cover it this week. It's just too much. But over the last year, Google's electricity consumption is up 30%. Google can try to greenwash this all they want and say, we've brought on more green power than anyone else. Sure. But the green power that they're bringing online is not keeping pace with the data center consumption that they're bringing online. And it's maxing out our current fossil fuel infrastructure. And when there's a deficit, that green power isn't getting it done. What do they have to bring online? More fossil fuel electricity. So all of these, like, oh, we're going to have these 2030 climate goals. Not only have they fallen behind their goal, they've worked back against the progress they were making in the first 5 years of this decade. And now they're contributing significantly more pollution. It's a joke. It's a joke that's going to make life on this planet miserable. And we're all acting like, oh, but I mean, it's inevitable. It has to happen. It really doesn't. It really doesn't have to happen. We could be using this compute, this infrastructure for anything else. It is very disappointing to see companies crowbarring really inefficient tools into places where other more traditional computing solutions have worked much, much better. It's pretty bad. From Arthur Lee Brown. Meta contaminates a city's water, gets fined $50 million in 10 years. And then they fight the fine and they keep it in court for appeals for another 10 years after that. It's pretty great. Oh, WX Romer. Maybe start talking to your town council or something. We have a pretty big Meta data center a town away from where I live. Yikes. I'm not joking. Start talking to your local elected officials. Start doing a little work where you could measure the output or the reclaimed water from these facilities. Look at the noise pollution, look at the air pollution, and start supplying this kind of data to your local town council. Because Brian Billings, I think, has the right idea. I think legislatures should pass laws that if data centers need water, they need to use non-potable water. They need to be the ones to pay for all of their electricity. They need to be the ones to guarantee they aren't contributing to air pollution. They need to be the ones. Instead, it's the same thing that I have a problem with dipshits that are like, well, I don't want to pay for roads that I don't drive on. I don't want my taxes, blah, 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 blah. So all of these businesses can only survive because the infrastructure and the taxpayers are paying all of the cleanup. They get to privatize the money that they're in control of, and everyone else is left holding the bag, cleaning up their mess. If we made all of these businesses, and this is something I really wish would happen with consumer electronics too. If you don't have a clear-cut strategy on how to handle the end of your product's life, the e-waste, reclaiming, recycling, disassembling, or refurbishing, if you don't have a solution for that, and it's up to taxpayers to like take their products to special toxic waste facilities because you've got a battery that's puffing up, you haven't finished your obligation. Yes, I know all of these products would get more expensive. And that I think would also be a good thing because it would also encourage people to hold on to them longer and to repair them. It would have a ripple effect. It would suck because we're used to dirt cheap products, but also we'd stop buying dirt cheap products that you just dispose of instead of repair and recycle and refurbish. Ditto data centers. If your business model depends on community efforts to clean up your mess, you don't have a business model and you should not be allowed to engage in this kind of business until you can show how you take care of your own water, take care of your own electricity, and manage any potential pollution. And for some reason, in the United States, this is like radical leftist ideology because we've gotten so used to companies just wrecking the environment and taxpayers trying to find ways to clean up after them because, I mean, that's the best way to make profits. So we're going to make sure that we subsidize their business with taxpayer dollars. Great. It's real good. I'm sorry, there are a lot of stories here that are kind of bummers. I was actually kind of curious about this one, how people felt about, I feel like the initial surge coming out of Reddit and some of the online, the gaming communities, the gaming forums, I think was appropriately upset. But I I'm going to get real nitpicky here. I don't like console business models. We're going to shift. We're going to start talking about Sony. They announced they're not going to have discs anymore. And then they shut down their social media for like the last week. I'm actually not overly bothered by a discless PlayStation. I feel the era of a PlayStation as a living room, catch-all multimedia entertainment computer is kind of done. And I feel like consumers, unfortunately, have driven this push where, the idea that I would have this amazing stereo and I'd have this box that I play games on, but it would also be a good box to put in a music CD or a movie on Blu-ray. It makes me sad. I'm not saying I like this, but I kind of feel that part of the market has moved on. But since the PlayStation 4, Marie and I haven't gotten any new game consoles. We've been PC gamers. I have a little mini PC behind our TV. Increasingly, if I'm not getting an amazing deal on a game through something like Humble Bundle, I'm trying to shop more and more games, support more and more developers on good old games so I can keep the installers and I don't have to worry about DRM preventing me from playing a game that I paid for. On my NAS, I have an archive of older games that I keep those installers because I might want to revisit that game. I can play that game anytime, anywhere, anyhow that I want to play that game. But I'm really curious for people here. How many people are actually upset about the physical media side of this? And I'm not trying to argue and I'm not trying to debate. That for me is the part of this that is kind of the least problematic. What I have a problem with is Sony's business practice. They've demonstrated that when you buy something, you don't own it. They just recently cut hundreds of movies out of people's accounts. They did their customers dirty. They set up a storefront. They said, you can buy these movies, watch them on your PlayStation. And then when they just didn't want to have to hassle with licensing films anymore, and often internally, like Sony movies for a Sony PlayStation, they cut the ties. They stopped dealing with the licensing, and all those movies vanished from people's accounts. That to me is one of the problems when we talk about digital consoles. I'm honestly not as concerned about the shiny plastic disc. But do I have that wrong? Is there something about the shiny plastic disc in an era where most people, overwhelmingly, I want to say estimates are like 90% of sales for PlayStation 5 have been digital versus physical? Am I missing something on not having the shiny plastic disc anymore? I feel like we would all agree the licensing situation is a big issue. If you can just remove someone's content and the company pays no penalty, then there's a massive consumer harm there. I spent $80 on this game. They lost the license to this game and now I can no longer play this game. I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a game library for my PlayStation 5, and Sony's decided that they just don't want to deal with compatibility for the PlayStation 6. So either I keep my PlayStation 5 around or I have to rebuy or upgrade games for a fee on the PlayStation 6. That to me is the more damaging part of this. So I was kind of curious. I know I've gotten a few comments in here, and I just want to see from Michael C2 on the last data center one. In the United States, we socialize the losses and privatize the gains. From Michael C2, I would be okay with them getting rid of physical media if the digital versions were DRM free. I mean, I would prefer both options available, but obviously physical media isn't the only point. JGJ, is Sony still producing Blu-ray movies? I think they are. I think Sony is still putting out parts of their catalog on Blu-ray. I don't think they've ended that, but I do think Sony has stopped manufacturing standalone Blu-ray players. So I got to be real precious because I have an LG um, Blu-ray burner in my massive workstation case here that's really good at helping me archive the movies that I buy on Blu-ray that are in that shelf above my head, and then also in massive storage containers in our storage unit right now, because I have a stupid library of old movies on disc. But this LG burner is really good, helping me do that. Arthur Lee Brown, Sony not maintaining Sony movies for its customers is wild. But again, it's like they have to pay their own licensing, right? It's the shell game. Again, it's, oh, we made so much money on sales and licensing and content. And you're like, yeah, but you spent it internally. Oh, Michael is adding to that. Yeah, the point isn't physical media. It's a day one playable edition that doesn't require an internet connection. Physical media is more likely to give you that, but not always. Because I also feel like Sony got all this ire, but I don't know that the situation is any better for Nintendo. Nintendo, you can buy a plastic case with a card inside the case, and the card is a placeholder. Aren't most Nintendo Switch 2 games really just digital downloads that you put the card into and the game is kind of associated with that card, but it's not like you can just put the card in your Switch 2 and play a game Super Nintendo style. It's you put the card in your Switch 2 and then it has to download the game. Isn't that part of the same situation? Isn't that still similar to what we were talking about with Sony? From Ishmael, I don't have a problem with not having physical media. I have a problem with internet connection required. That is another big issue for me too. If I want to revisit the hokey classic Vampire Combat, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I have the installers from Good Old Games, and Good Old Games also supplied the patches necessary to run that game on a modern system, and I can play it any way I want on any computer that I have access to, and it'll run great, and I don't have to connect to the internet to verify that I purchased the game. I bought the game. I bought it on set. It was $15 to get the Good Old Games edition of it. I love it. The Haunted Mansion sequence is still amazing horror video game storytelling. You're going down hallways and you see like a little girl run by and it's ah, chef's kiss. That's what I want. I'm with you there. And command control device. The issue is not physical media disappearing. The issue is lack of consumer rights regarding digital purchases. And we just recently suffered a setback on the stop killing games movement. It's not over. There are still other avenues to fight and to encourage legislation, but in the EU, they pushed back. So there's no way that a game company can guarantee that if they kill a game that customers can be handled appropriately. There's just nothing they can do. And that needs to be a part of the business model. It needs to be explicit and it needs to be clear. And I think that's an issue. I think it is it is not easy. I'm willing to go with them that it is not easy to do this. But if you give up on a piece of software or a platform and you're saying we're pulling it from the market, there's no way for us to make money on it, then you need to make good faith efforts to refund the people that were invested in that game or dump the game online and let people have it. Let open source what that game is. Obviously there are challenges on that, but there needs to be some kind of punitive reaction or result. There needs to be some kind of response and reaction to how a company can just rug pull you. I'm not as hyped up. I know Louis Rossmann started this. Well, if buying a game is not owning it, then pirating a game is not stealing. I get what he's saying. And I really do still try to support the filmmakers, the musicians, the television producers, the game developers that I enjoy their content. But increasingly, I've just gotten way more selective about how and where I spend money on entertainment. Because one, I have an incredible backlog of entertainment. Two, I love doing things like buying old used CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays because you can get them really cheap and not a lot of people have the hardware to watch, to play a shiny plastic disc anymore. I think, unfortunately, it gets caught up in too pithy of an assessment. And like I've heard lots of people now ranting this. Oh, then it's piracy is not stealing. And great, yes, I understand the Revolutionary War, sort of vocalization on that topic, but we also need to sort of acknowledge, like, if we want to keep getting good music, good movies, good TV shows, good games, and we're not willing to support the people making this stuff, then we don't get this stuff. And I feel there's just this one little schism in how some of these communities approach topics like piracy and how the industry's reactions to these conversations is to make this stuff even worse for the consumer. And I feel like that's going to get way worse before it gets better. But we need to see some kind of pushback. It's just happened too many times now over the last 10 years. I bought this movie on Google Play Movies and then they just pulled it off my account. Happened to me with Kindle and my older version of Superman Red Sun. Well, that sucks. Like, there's nothing that should prevent me from being able to read my edition of Superman Red Sun just because Amazon pulled the license for it. It's just time and time and time again. There's no refund, there's no accountability, there's no reaction. And you get to a point where we have so little left to us as consumers that you hit a breaking point, and it's going to be something as stupid as a PlayStation game that then sets off enough people that we'll hopefully start to see some kind of actual reaction or response, not just these token like talking points like, well, something to think about. Oh, we feel for the consumer. No, you don't. You really don't. From the Autumn Network, Sony is trying to as much I think trying to end as many physical formats as possible. Last year they stopped Blu-ray production, mini DV, mini disc. It was still being made in Japan. Um, I didn't know that Sony had ended Blu-ray production. I thought they had just ended Blu-ray player production. So I'll have to look that up. I really need to make sure I've got my facts straight when I'm talking about that kind of stuff. Oh, and Roth Softy correcting me here. Nintendo Switch game cards are still physical games. There's also a cloud version of a few titles. Switch 2 has game cards and game key cards. The game key allows for digital download as long as you have the physical game key card and internet connection. I did not understand the distinction because I never did get on the Switch. Bionic Scoop. If GTA 6 is 390 gig, that's 2 to 3 double layer Blu-ray disc affair. And I don't have a problem with that. I remember when, man, I would break out all of those DVDs. Like insert disc 1, insert disc 2. I feel like more people are going to get burned by, do you have a 2 terabyte PlayStation or Xbox to play GTA 6 and still have a few other games on that system? Another bummer, just because, Sony's ending this Blu-ray for a physical media for games, and we're talking about whether or not they're ending Blu-ray production for media. One of my increasingly a company that I used to support and talk about a lot, I'm having to say maybe we need to give up on them, is Plex. So Plex raises price of lifetime Plex Pass and introduces a 5-year plan at $250. So, so this was written up by Matthew Keys over at thedesk.net. Streaming platform developer Plex has moved forward with a promised price hike on its lifetime Plex Pass, which now charges a one-time fee of $750 to unlock premium features associated with its apps. They've also quietly added a new $250 Plex Pass for a 5-year plan. So if you don't want to pay the total for Plex up front, every 5 years, you can pay something else. So here, I want to see oh my God. So here's Plex.tv. I mean, the numbers here just don't make sense. Plex.tv remote watch pass is $2.99 a month, or you can bill annually at $30 a month. Plex Pass, go premium, the full Plex experience, $7 a month, $70 a year. Boy, that's such a savings. You'll save $14 a year. The 5-year plan, $250, and the lifetime Plex Pass, billed once. You'll never need to pay for Plex ever again. $749.99. So I was mad because when I got Plex Pass, the lifetime pass for Plex Pass, I think I spent over $100. And Plex Pass used to be like a $70 lifetime purchase. None of the updates for Plex have included features that I really felt were like critical for me, having a box of hard drives where I keep a ton of movies, TV shows, and music, and I want to watch those movies, TV shows, and music anywhere I have an internet connection. My computer transcodes the stream. It's local hardware processing to send that information out. Plex can facilitate that and can make some of this a little bit better, like how your app talks to your home server and can buffer music or TV shows. I had an issue here. We had a massive power outage and I didn't know. I was listening to Daft Punk at the library. I was just feeling like, hey, I want to go out, write somewhere else. I'm kind of cooped up in my office. I went to the library. I was writing, listening to Daft Punk, and the music cuts out. And it turns out 2 hours earlier, our place had a power outage. And Plex had buffered and set up a playlist and kept me in music for 2 hours. It's pretty cool. It's not just the immediate data connection. It was this really cool process. The platform worked. It did what it was supposed to do. That to me was absolutely worth buying a lifetime pass for over $100. I want to say it was like 120 when I got it. $750 for a lifetime pass. $250 every 5 years. I don't know what Plex brings to the table. They've got lots of like licensed content that you can stream for free. Why? That's not the point of Plex. It's not Roku. I guess someone could say like, well, I don't want to pay for like another streaming service and I've got my own movies and stuff, but if I pay for this, I'll also get the Mythbusters channel. I can't. I don't understand. I really don't. So it's futzier. It's a little trickier to set up. I don't think it's as clean. I don't think it's as smooth. And not like Plex is amazing. Like Plex has outages. Plex, things sometimes bork and I have to manually go and like get my computer talking to my apps again. Like it's not foolproof. But Plex has been more consistent than Jellyfin. But if you're savvy at all, get your friends and family set up on Jellyfin. Make that the fun project. Look, here's this free piece of software. The app is a little ugly. The setup is a little obtuse. And now what? I can watch my DVDs of Battlestar Galactica anywhere in the world. I have a data connection. Woo woo! Because I can't push anyone towards a Plex lifetime pass at $750. That's insane. From Goat V8, Plex introduces advertisements for Jellyfin. And Darcy, right after, I've got Jellyfin on my desktop for free. And free Tailscale means I can watch anywhere. So there you go. I don't know, man. This is so disappointing. Well, we got a couple more bummers. I'm so sorry. This week I kind of knew would be a little heavy with the news. This is a kind of a fun twofer, back-to-back stories here. From WCCF Tech, Samsung's profit in 2026 will exceed its cumulative profit generated over the past 40 years. 40 years will be equal to this 1 year of profit because of RAM price hikes. Samsung is expected to report 45.6 trillion yuan, which is $55 billion US, in operating profit for the second quarter. The second quarter of 2026. If the South Korean behemoth does match these expectations, it will surpass NVIDIA's quarter one operating profit of $53 billion, officially becoming the world's most profitable enterprise. In one quarter, they're about to hit $55 billion in profit based on their RAM and semiconductor industry. And we know that ain't because of chips. We know that's not Exynos SoCs and CPUs. That's RAM and storage. All of these price hikes are inflating the component pricing, and Samsung isn't hurting. It's not like they're just scraping by. Oh, we had to raise prices because we wouldn't make any money if we didn't raise prices. We would have lost money. No. They'll make more money in 2026 than they've made in the last 40 years combined. So then the next story we have, coming by way of PC Mag, written up by John Martindale, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron sued for alleged memory price fixing. The companies are accused of coordinating their pivots to high bandwidth memory. I want to say 17 plaintiffs, which include 14 individuals and 3 small PC businesses, are seeking class action status and injunction to halt any further price fixing and damages. And of course, the article also goes on to mention that there was a similar case in 2018 that courts kicked out because they just couldn't prove that the companies were actually working together, even though all of their market moves were coordinated and happened at the same time. And that we know Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron have absolutely engaged in price fixing and market manipulation in the past. It's in my long form Why I Hate Samsung podcast. Samsung has a history of market manipulation, price fixing, working to push out competitors in the space and dragging on court cases for as long as they can to bankrupt their opponents. Samsung is just an utterly scummy company, and I really wish we could mount some kind of legitimate market correction against their terrible business practices, which hurt economies, hurt consumers. It's awful, and someone is still going to be, but I just like my Galaxy phone. You're like, great, that's awesome. I'm so happy you like your overpriced, mediocre phone. But that's where we're at. So this one will be curious to see. We're kicking this off. This was like 6 days ago. A complaint was filed in the U.S. District Court for Northern California. So there's a chance with everything that's happening right now, and especially in California, having ties to the technology industry the way that we do, there's a chance that this might have some legs. But I don't know about y'all. We get to the end of this and watch there be like a fine. We're going to fine Samsung $1 billion. And Micron won't get any fines because Micron is always willing to like rat on other companies. That in the last time that I feel like there was a massive class action, Micron got reduced penalties for just rolling over and giving all of the information they had on the other companies that were engaged in price fixing. Like that somehow made it fine. And now Micron is going to go right back to doing this again. As soon as they pulled Crucial, they said, hey, we're not going to make consumer memory at all anymore. It was pretty clear that there was an industry-wide effort to supply data center RAM at the expense of consumers, which is going to drive up prices for both data center RAM that companies have committed. Sam Altman has committed to buying 40% of the RAM made this year. Who wants to guess if Sam Altman is really going to buy 40% of the data center RAM out there? Anyone? I don't know that I would bet on that if I were into speculation gambling like that. But how much we want to bet? Let's say this does have legs. Let's say we do manage to stick this as a class action in California, that the individual price per defendant is going to be like $1 billion fine. Record breaking fine in a collusion, market manipulation, class action lawsuit. Just this. Listen to this first sentence from the PC Mag article. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron are being sued for allegedly colluding to restrict access to DDR3 and DDR4 memory standards, driving up prices by over 700% over 4 years and leaving no room in the market for competitors. And we have to like allegedly, this has happened, even though we can practically say there is almost no competition in this market. We're hoping to see some Chinese alternatives soon because that's our next story is Lenovo turning to Chinese manufacturers for components, and that there has been a real 700% increase in older technologies that should be falling in price because that's how technology works. The manufacturing should become more cost effective. You should be able to scale better. You have contracts in place. You know who that memory is going to, and you know the consumers are going to pay for it. And instead, over the last 4 years, we've seen the prices rise 700%. But there's just no way we can know if there's any market malfeasance. There's just no way to know. Well, one of the highlights of this week's podcast is we're hoping to see Chinese competition. I love all these PC and tech nerds that will rail whenever I celebrate like how good a Chinese phone is. Oh, the Chinese, they're gonna just give you a crap phone. Chinese phones are always the worst, and Chinese phones spy on you. And now watch all these PC nerds now flip because Lenovo, well, they've got to make some changes. This is written up by I thought this Ycry over at videocards.com. Notebook check tests YMTC laptop solid state drive in Lenovo ThinkBook 14G9. Lenovo is now shipping at least one ThinkBook 14 configuration with an SSD from Yangtze Memory Technologies, better known as YMTC. So we got a little solid state drive in there, M.2, the 2242 form factor, 512 gig, NVMe 4.0, and measured write speeds up to 3950 megabytes per second. Read speeds up to 3950 and write speeds up to 2500 megabytes per second. And that sounds pretty good to me. If these can arrive at reasonable prices and they don't immediately sizzle after like a couple months of use, I am fine leaving behind the traditional memory and storage manufacturers. And hopefully there's a run on Chinese companies making these kinds of parts and pieces for computers again. There is never going to be any change until there's some kind of outward market pressure. And SK Hynix, Micron, and Samsung have a history of circling the wagons and working together to prevent other companies from being competitive in this space. The first time they were tagged for market collusion like that, there was clear communication between the companies on how they could wreck competitors and prevent new competitors from entering the space. They won't be able to do that against the Chinese government. Command control device. Wait till said PC nerds find out that Lenovo has always been somewhat Chinese. Ooh. Yeah. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And from Rob Aarons, meanwhile, all the best phones are from Chinese OEMs. Let me tell you how much I've been enjoying my time with the Vivo X300 Ultra and how it was the right tool for the job for action and sports photography at my daughter's softball games. How I just took my grandmother's 90th birthday portraits on that phone instead of a proper mirrorless camera. It was so nice. It worked so well. I'm good. I pulled up like the Pixel 10 and you're like, should I even pack this? And no, my Pixel 10 is basically only good for giving me non-committal answers to questions about how terrible AI is. Because, maybe AI is good or maybe AI is bad. Hey, Pixel, or is Android more open than it used to be? Well, actually, some might say it's both more open and less open. Great. Awesome. And Jimmy Fire Dragon, I've been enjoying my Find X9 Ultra because that thing is a monster. Find X9 Ultra has my favorite hardware of the year. I do kind of like the Vivo camera app a little bit better. Another example of all these price hikes, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just to kind of point it out, I did a video review on just a dirt cheap mini PC, the Camrui, and it's really not dirt cheap anymore. It is kind of expensive for a dirt cheap system, if that makes sense. I'm being unnecessarily obtuse. GMK just relaunched a mini PC. This is a high-end gaming mini PC, and I really feel like all the nerds out there whining and crying about the Steam machine really are going out of their way to not see the rest of the market. Sorry, I know I'm screen sharing this right now. I just want to reiterate. No one rational should have looked at the Steam machine a year ago, before all of these massive price increases. Should have looked at the Steam machine from a year ago and thought, Yeah, that's a mini PC, a really small form factor, bespoke, individual AMD chip, limited run kind of machine that should only cost $500. Anyone who thought that was an absolute moron who deserves much harsher language, and I hate their faces. I really think lowly of you if you were looking at that configuration and ignoring all of the mini PCs that were as powerful as portable game consoles that are much more expensive and thought, oh, but a Steam machine need to be cheap. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. You're really bad at tech. And every time you open your mouth, everyone around you is rolling their eyes. It is disappointing that the Steam machine is as expensive as it is. For what you get, that's not a great buy. But comparatively, what's happening in the market right now? A bunch of people can say, yes, you can get a PlayStation that's going to be more powerful than the Steam machine. And currently, it's not as expensive as the Steam machine. Totally get you. But we're talking about a PC. We're talking about a small form factor PC. We're talking about PC gaming. So, what would be something analogous but more powerful? At least more powerful CPU. I'm honestly not sure about the GPU performance here. Well, GMK has this really clean looking silver monolith. It's skinny and it's mounted vertically. It looks like kind of like a thin blade server of a mini PC that stands upright. Strix Halo APU, it's called the Evo X2. There are two configurations available. I'm sorry, this is written up by Abid over at Notebook Check. There are two configurations available, and the base configuration comes with 128 gigabytes of RAM and a 2 terabyte SSD. This configuration has a launch price of $3,600, which is 2 times the launch price of the Evo X2 with the same memory and storage. So, for a very minor refinement of the X2, the X3, similarly equipped, similar performance, $3,600, doubling, more than doubling the price of the previous model, which wasn't particularly different. Hold on, I got to scroll down. Let me get this out of the way here. Mini PC is also available in another configuration, which comes with a 4 terabyte SSD and costs $3,849. So with a Ryzen AI Max Plus 395, I genuinely don't know. And someone will have to clue me in. AI Max Plus 395, obviously we're talking about 4 times as much RAM. Gotcha right there. And we're talking about a 2 terabyte SSD. So that's definitely an expensive component now too. I believe the AI Max 395 has a significantly more powerful CPU, but I genuinely don't know on the Radeon 8060 GPU that's built into this chip, is that comparable to the GPU that's in the Steam machine? Because if it is, and you don't need 4 times the amount of RAM, well, at around a third the price of this GMK Mini PC, I would say you've probably got a pretty good living room 1080p gaming solution in something like the Steam machine, accounting for the fact that a lot of small form factor mini PCs are gonna be about that price. So I don't know. Someone will have to tell me the Radeon 8060S versus the Steam Machine GPU. But $4,000 for the top config on a laptop chip mini PC. It's a high performance laptop chip mini PC, but this is a machine that would have been less than 2 grand a year ago. Even with the, like, we would have been like, oh, it's eye-wateringly expensive, but it has 128 gigs of RAM. Oh man, I'm just $1,800. Are you kidding me? That's so expensive. Except now it's almost 4 grand. So it's pretty great. It's pretty great. super great. Super, super, super great. This was an interesting product launch that I just kind of wanted to touch on. Oh, I don't have them up here anymore. So lately, when it comes to face displays, especially these XR augmented reality movie screen types of screens, not like smart glasses that like data traffic your face to Facebook. Let me just pull an example. This isn't the same company we're going to be talking about here in just a second, but one of the companies that I've started recommending the most is Ray Neo. So my uncle, he's pretty tech savvy. He's the uncle. He has an Xperia 1 Mark V. He had a Galaxy S9 until like last year. He loves playing with different tech gadgets. I think he's rocking a Garmin right now as his smartwatch of choice. But he had a pair of Rokids, and when we got I met up with him, we got to do like a sampler. So I had him try at the time the TCL Nextwear were some of the more expensive glasses. I had him try Rokid, Rayneo, and Xreal. Xreal was the other brand. And out of all of them, the Rokid kind of fit his face the best. They were the most comfortable, but he didn't like fiddling with the diopters. So you can adjust the diopter on each eye. And I understand why that's valuable for some people, but that's a very specific mechanic that I don't think is broadly beneficial. Especially if you know you need like a consistent kind of magnification, it's better to go with lens inserts than I think to constantly be fiddling. Because every time you put on the Rokids, it's like you've got to retune them just a little bit. So he was wanting to replace, he had these Rokids for like 2 years. He wants to replace them. And I got to meet up with him for my grandmother's 90th birthday. And I didn't bring a whole bunch of other glasses. I brought the X Reels and I brought the Ray Neos. And I explained, I want you to just take a look at both pairs of these glasses, but one is more expensive than the other. And the X Reels are significantly more technologically advanced, but the newest Ray Neos have surprisingly good image quality. So these are the Ray Neo Air 3S or Air 3 Pros. They now have the Air 4s. Both of those are downstairs in my backpack from the trip that we took. I still haven't unpacked everything from that trip. But I put them both on. He's like, yeah, I really like the X Reel, but these Ray Neos, they're bright, they're great image quality. Like, so what are the price differences? And at the time, the Ray Neos were on sale for like $250. And when you get sub 300 on a pair of OLEDs that you put on your face and that they project a movie screen out in front of you, like that's pretty extreme. $250. That's a decent buy. That is getting close to the price of the nicer portable monitors, right? So then I tell them, oh, and the X-Real are significantly more expensive, but they do these cool like head tracking and they can kind of smooth your movements out. But if we're talking just HDR quality to HDR quality, and you're going to be sitting still on an airplane and you don't need the image to be locked in place or to be smoothed out, it's kind of hard to spend twice as much on the X-Real technology. So he's going to grab a pair of Ray Neos. Short story, incredibly long. I don't know what to make of this announcement from Asus. Asus and Xreal are working together on a headset. I think it is out in some markets. I've seen very little additional coverage on it. I got to try it out at CES and I did a short at the Xreal booth at, I think it was Showstoppers or Pepcom, one of those little sideshows at CES. This is a very weird announcement to me. So this is the official press release from Asus. All new ROG Xbox Ally X20 bundle raises the bar for gaming handhelds. So the $1,000 Xbox ROG Ally is now going to come with an OLED. So I think a lot of gamers out there, if you were thinking about spending $1,000 on a portable PC gaming console, handheld gaming console, OLED is a good perk. Should make the image quality a little bit nicer, much better contrast. Depending on brightness, it could help, sort of rein in a little bit of the battery draw from the screen. We don't have pricing on that yet, but it should be probably more expensive than the current $1,000 Xbox ROG Ally. But what's weird, it seems like they're trying to find the value add. This is the concern. I know that the OLED is going to raise prices. The Xbox is already expensive. I'm sorry, the Xbox Ally is already expensive. It's $1,000, right? So if you're already going to jack up prices and you're going to have to include the price hikes for the OLED and all of the system components that are now more expensive than the original, bundling is going to make the glasses look like they're an albatross around the Ally's neck. I don't know of many gamers who are earnestly shopping a handheld PC game console, a handheld PC portable, and they want the better OLED display to play their games on and say, you know what would make this so much better is if I had a way to plug in glasses that would turn the screen off and then send the image to the glasses on the portable that I'm spending more money on to get the better screen. So we don't have pricing for this, but they're really leaning hard into this. Well, it's the bundle for gamers, and gamers are going to be excited. You can play the games on your screen, or you can play the games in these really fancy X-Real Asus ROG glasses, and it's the 20th anniversary collection. 20th anniversary of what? It's not the 20th anniversary of any X-Real glasses. It's not the 20th anniversary of any of the portable gaming consoles. Those haven't been around for 20 years. So is this just the 20th anniversary of ROG? This press release is so nebulous, but they're trying so hard to attach the cool. Limited edition, OLED, fancy glasses, all in one big bundle. Isn't that what all y'all gamers want? And I don't think it is. I'm actually a little anxious about X-Real because I feel like while they're more technologically advanced glasses than any of the competitors in this space right now, I worry that they're kind of pricing themselves out of this market. When I can go up to someone and say, hey, here's HDR quality, super bright, the audio's okay. The audio is open ear audio for these glasses. But I had my uncle just watching the opening of The Matrix on my phone plugged into these glasses, and like other family members are walking by like, oh, what is that? What does that look like? What is that doing? And we just did a round robin. Like, here, put these glasses on your face. Here's the Matrix. Oh, look, it's Trinity doing the floating jump kick. Oh, look, it's green text and stuff coming down the screen. And everyone's just like, oh, wow, this is awesome. It's just like so big and so bright and it's so colorful. That's $250. That sounds pricey. But then you start looking at like $1,000 console plus the price of OLED screen, plus the price hikes from system components, and then the ROG glasses are even techier than the regular X-Real glasses. This is going to be like a $1,500 bundle. Do you want to spend $1,500 on a refresh of the ROG Ally? And the reason why it's so expensive is because they're adding glasses? Don't you think a lot of people who want an Xbox Ally are going to say, I don't want the glasses, just sell me the console? That's, I feel like, the disconnect here. I think this is going to end up doing a disservice to X-Real. They've made these incredible, like the displays, the refresh rate, the new head tracking, the X1 chip that kind of, tracks your head and stuff. All this stuff is cool, but no one knows what it is. You can make the most technologically advanced pair of cinema face displays the world has ever seen, but no one has tried them. Every one of my uncles, aunts, my my siblings, their spouses, they've all seen things like portable monitors. They've seen things like tablets. They know you can have two computer monitors plugged into a computer. They've seen different radical sizes of TVs, and they've all been to movie theaters. But the second you put those glasses on them, they've never seen anything like that before. You can explain it to them, but they don't know until they see it on their face. And I think XReal is in dicey territory, selling products so expensive with so few consumers who understand what that experience looks like. So command control device, I knew this. I knew the CPU was more powerful. Sorry, going back to the GMK, the 395 is way more powerful than Steam Machine, at least on the CPU. 8060S is also more powerful on paper by having more CUs on newer RDNA 3.5 architecture, roughly 50%, I would guess. So that's what I really want to check out. I knew the CPU was going to be more powerful on the 395. I know the CPU cores on the Steam Machine are not, there are fewer of them and it's an older architecture. But I didn't know on the GPU how close that would get. But if we're talking like a 50% bump in graphics performance for 3 times the price, I'm not sure that's really delivering a great bang for buck. From JGJ 4430, does gaming at beyond 1080p matter for high resolution displays and TVs? And that, unfortunately, I can't answer. It just depends on the game. I don't play a lot of games where 4K matters. I can fire up 4K on our 55-inch living room TV for Sonic Crossworlds, newest Sonic racing game. And the little mini PC that I have behind the TV actually does a respectable job of hanging with 4K at medium and higher graphics settings. But I can bump it down to 1080 and get 120 hertz. And I think it matters more that it's going super high frame rate than it is going higher resolution. For a racing game, it's like I want the liquidy smooth performance more than I want the higher resolution. But it's game by game. There are some games that I'm sure look really pretty and you want it in 4K and you'll feel like it's not getting there at 1080p, but that's something you just got to kind of answer for yourself. From the Bionic Scoop. I still need to get a pair of them. Full VR seems brutal on my lovely herniated disc-powered neck. I saw a recent, I think it was a short or a TikTok or a reel, someone really shilling some Samsung because they had the Samsung Galaxy AR headset, and it was so stupid. Like, this is level 0 entertainment, and it's someone lying in bed holding the phone over their face, and like, this is level 99 entertainment, and it's the same person lying in bed with the Samsung Galaxy XR thing, way overacting. They're like, wow, oh my god, it's amazing. And you're just watching a movie, or you're just looking at some videos. $250, and you have a movie theater screen that's projecting up at the ceiling of your room. You have a movie theater screen that looks awesome on an airplane. Even if I'm just kind of putzing around the house and my daughter's watching something obnoxious on the main TV, I can plug these in and have an awesome 1080p video streaming or gaming experience. I can even tie it to my workstation. It doesn't work as well as I'd want it to. There is like little lags and micro stutters and stuff that kind of chill how fun it is. But like, I've got some of those little puck brains that you can plug in, and then it'll like communicate with my with Steam on my workstation, and I can play a game remotely with a controller paired to my smart glasses. It works pretty well, but I wouldn't do it for anything too twitchy, especially if you're into more like turn-based stuff. It works amazing. But like, don't go spend $2,000 on an AR headset. Spend a lot less on a proper VR headset if you really want to get into gaming deep. But if you're just like streaming content or watching content, you want to like have a massive TV in your bedroom, $250. It is so good. It is so good. I would highly recommend. A DTNL. It's the 20th anniversary of gaming. Games were invented 20 years ago in the year 2006. All right, we have a couple phone stories. I'm gonna flip the order on these. Let's just knock out. Analysts are all up in their feels because Apple might finally invent folding phones. It's been a shame because, I keep thinking this idea would have some merit if someone would just finally invent a phone that could fold in half. But no one has done it. No one has made this thing. So I'm glad that we're finally getting some leaks and rumors about Apple inventing this product segment. But analysts are also super concerned about it. And according to analyst Ming, I'm sorry, this was written up by Siddharth over at GSM Arena. Excuse me, reporting on analyst Ming-Chi Kuo. Kuo. The iPhone Ultra will be available in limited quantities at launch due to manufacturing challenges. As a result, pre-orders are expected to begin later than those for the iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max. So Apple finally inventing the folding phone. They're expecting a price tag between $2,300 and $2,500, which honestly ain't that bad. I was really expecting more, given Apple is inventing a whole new product category that no one has ever seen before. It's a folding mini tablet that turns into a double thick phone. I mean, that's just radical. Like, it's impossible to me that anyone could do that. And there's just no one else with the kind of tech savvy that Apple has to create a product that like folds like you got to think it's kind of like a book, right? It's like you've got like a little like moleskin notebook, and like you can close it and it's like a phone, and you can open it and it's like a tablet. And I just don't really think people understand how radical that idea is for Apple to be able to just walk into this market as the first company that's ever done anything like that before. But the fact that for an individual, this could displace, I'm sorry, I'm being really, really obnoxious about this. I'm going to run with that gag for as long as I can. But seriously, the fact that for an individual consumer who doesn't have kids, this could displace iPad sales. If Apple gets over their own obnoxiousness and gives you some of the capabilities of an iPad, a folding iPhone could potentially displace the person who was going to buy an iPhone and an iPad. They could now just buy one product. $2,500 is a lot of money, but I was expecting Apple to add the price of an iPhone Pro Max to the price of an iPad Pro and then pay a manufacturing fee on top of that. There was a world in my brain where Apple could be approaching this market at like $3,000. We know this is going to be a very low volume selling device. Folding phones, I don't believe have hit 3% of the global smartphone market yet. With Apple walking into this space, it could hit 5%. Again, these same analysts are estimating it could hit 5% by 2030, maybe a little sooner. I don't have high expectations for this being a wildly popular solution. So if it's not going to be a wildly popular solution, I was expecting Apple to come in with potentially an even higher price tag. But $2,500 is a base model, then maybe another $200 if you want to bump up storage. That's kind of where I'm thinking we could arrive. That makes sense to me. But I'm going to be really curious to see if this ends up just being a paper launch. You announce it, you see if there's some interest. You hand it to a couple of influencers so they can say nice things about Apple, because that's how influencers make their money on YouTube, is by only saying nice things about Apple. And then you see if you can get some pre-orders. I think this will be significantly more successful than a Vision Pro, just because it is so much more immediate and it's so much better understood what it is. It's an iPad and an iPhone, and the commercials are going to go crazy on that. It's going to be a lot easier to get developers to support it, to get apps sort of moved over into a phone versus tablet kind of solution. But I don't know. My question would be, what do you think the footprint for something like this looks like? An individual iPhone, like an iPhone 17, non-Pro, non-Plus, Max, Air, whatever, just an iPhone 17 can sell 25 million units, 20 million units. Let's just round it down. An individual model of iPhone, not unusual for it to hit around 20 million units. I think this, in its first year, is maybe 5. And that's not a ballpark Apple likes to play in. If Apple isn't selling a grip of devices, especially for iPhone and iPad, those are where the company makes their money, ostensibly. If it doesn't break 5 million in its first year, that's maybe not a success for Apple. I don't even know that Vision Pro has broken 2 million units yet, right? So these Halo products and these high visionary products, these things that are supposed to get Apple fans excited about the future of the technology and how groundbreaking and innovative Apple is, I don't know that this has the juice. Again, in it's weird because, like, for 8 years of Samsung delivering folding phones, that hasn't moved the needle appreciably on that kind of tech. It's not pulling iPhone owners over to having a book foldable. It's not encouraging substantially more sales. Sales of folding phones have not replaced the years Samsung had where they had separate Galaxy S and Galaxy Note models. 2019 to 2020 was peak Samsung, and their sales fell off a cliff after 2020, and folding phones haven't made up the difference in those two separate phone lines being crown jewel phone lines. So I don't know. You tell me, is this a success at 5 million? Analysts are saying, oh, Apple expects production to hit 10 million units. I don't think this is going to be a 10 million unit phone. I think it's going to be too expensive to manufacture. I don't think Apple can lock in all of the contracts necessary to keep pricing in check over the entire year of its first year of production. And also, I don't know that there's consumer um, groundswell support. I think we're going to see a massive surge of sales in the first year. I mean, the first that launch, once it goes out of pre-order and you can actually buy it easily, 2 million in like a month. But $2,500 for a mini folding tablet that doesn't do anything better than a standalone iPhone Pro, I don't know that there's a lot of consumer appetite for that right now. This one has me non a little shaky on what my prediction might be for it. I think in its first year it could hit 5. I don't know. What do you think that this is going to be a high selling 10 million units in its first year kind of device? I mean, command control device. I think this is the most important note here. Command control device says, "Oh, Apple is making a foldable phone. Wow, nobody has done that before. Thank God Apple is doing its duty of being a market leader. It's incredible that no one else has invented this yet." I don't know that this is going to be this high. JGJ saying Apple might release the folding phone at $5,000. Didn't they release the first $1,000 base model iPhone, base model smartphone? And it's funny that your typo there was to replace smartphone for base model phone. Because we can only credit Apple with any invention in the smartphone market. So it's not that. I really thought that the phone plus tablet price plus the premium for the engineering could take us up to $3,000. And it's possible that there's a flavor of this, like a base model is 2,500 with 128 gig of storage, It would be so crap. And then the terabyte version is a $3,000 phone. I don't know about 5K, but Apple has broken the pricing model on smartphones. $1,000 phones were normalized because of Apple. Expensive smartwatches. Let's not forget the Apple Watch Edition has always been a significantly more expensive piece of tech. I don't think it'll hit 5K. I don't think they'll go that far. But from GMOSC, I'm spreading that sarcasm on some bread now because I was laying it on thick. Oh man. So Michael C2, a lot of these foldable users love AI, and I'm trying to tell them that foldables are never going to be mainstream without the cost going down. Motorola's goal was to sell their phone for 1,500. I'm just not sure because it's like you're buying this phone kind of on prestige. I think Samsung was right. I think it was it the Z Flip 2 or Z Flip 3? It's not a better phone at anything. It's a statement phone. Samsung sold that phone as this phone makes a statement. Last Motorola Razr that I got to play with had an 8 series Qualcomm SoC that absolutely performed like a mid-ranger phone because you could not cool it or power it at the level that an 8 series chip would need to drive a more performant experience. I have the bar graphs on patreon.com/somegadgetguy where you can see you use the phone for more than 20 seconds and the performance is somewhere around a Snapdragon 7 series. Yes, you can get it to give you a bigly Geekbench score, but it can't do much in a real world app before the performance would plummet. Same thing. I've got, it's still one of the only folding phones that I keep in my collection here. I just like to pull it out and mess with it from time to time. It just recently got some Hyper OS updates, my little Xiaomi Mix Flip, and it's cute. But once you're done with cute, once you're done with just the novelty of being able to close it, what do you have? Slightly better for selfies, for lining up your selfies, but on kind of mediocre camera sensors. But it was expensive, but the camera sensors are kind of mid at best. So what do you do after that novelty wears off? And I'm really not trying to trash people who love their book and flip folding phones, but the only thing I keep coming back to is you like that it makes a visual statement of having moving parts. There's very little practically that succeeds from these form factors beyond just having a regular slate style phone. And I want to be more excited because I loved things like right there, right where I'm pointing is my Surface Duo, dual screen, super thin, mini folding tablet. It's got the composition notebook skin on it, so it looks like a little grade school notebook. And I love that thing. I loved it. It's one of the best tablets I've ever owned. It was not a good phone. No one is going to be shocked by me saying the phone was kind of mediocre, but it was a really fun tablet. It was great for multitasking 2 apps side by side. I loved the dual screen case on the LG V60. I loved being able to do more with my gadgets. I loved being able to multitask easier. So I totally get that. But over 8 years, 8 successive Galaxy Fold generations, have we really done anything with this form factor or with this user experience that's going to court more than just some of these tech enthusiast guys that like to show some of these things off? They haven't found their mainstream fingertip grip, their hold on the market where I need to have this because it does this thing that I can't do with any other solution. This is the way that I need to get work done. This is the way I want to play games. I don't think folding phones have it. Especially when for me it's I need good cameras. And the second I pick up a folding phone, I know the cameras are not going to be as good. I'll spend $2,000 on the full kit for the Vivo X300 Ultra and the lenses and the case and the mounts and everything, because then it allows me to leave thousands of dollars of mirrorless camera at home. I've actually largely delayed upgrading my mirrorless cameras because like I use them mostly just to stream this talking head stuff. Do I need a really expensive full frame camera body to talk in this kind of static shot? No. The second I line up an action shot, B-roll, close-ups, macros, I'm using a phone. So anyway, I I'm being real pissy about Apple because everyone's going to act like this is the most amazing thing. And now Apple's done it. We can take this idea seriously. But I don't think Apple's going to come into this market with anything better than what we've already had from Samsung and Google and Oppo, definitely Oppo and Xiaomi and all these other brands that have been doing folding phones for a while. And I bet you the Chinese folding phones are all going to have better cameras than what Apple is going to put on this Ultra. It's the iPhone Ultra, and it's going to have worse cameras than the iPhone Pro. Neat. I think that's real neat. So Huff and Puff is more bullish on this. Huff and Puff says, Huff and Puffin, excuse me. It'll hit 5 million easy, I reckon. And even if not, it'll only grow exponentially in future years once people get their first taste of a folding phone. I'm not sure because I feel like that hasn't proven true for Galaxy owners in the same way. A lot of people who buy folding phones stick with folding phones. They like folding phones, but not all. And we're not converting more people over to folding phones at the speed that I think these companies hoped they would see. Like Samsung was ahead of the curve on bendy, foldy plastic screens, and they really wanted to have the same lock on folding phones that they had on OLEDs. Samsung ruled OLED for years until LG finally figured out their POLED not being a total piece of crap, right? Took till like 2020, but they got there. I don't think Samsung is selling so many of these bendy, foldy plastic screens. I don't think that's really moving or motivating the market very much. I'm not arguing with you. It could turn out to be that it only Apple can succeed in the tech space, and that of course Apple is going to get all kinds of unfair advantages in the commentary. Like, well, I mean, yeah, it's got these problems and it can't do all the things that a Galaxy could do, but it's Apple's first generation. You got to compare the first generation Apple against like the first generation Samsung, and then you'll see Apple just does it all better all the time. I mean, you know that's coming, right? Future, it's here. I'll be objective. Yes, it'll be successful. Both Sam Apple are betting on its success. Again, if Apple moves the needle on this, it could benefit Samsung and Google and all the other manufacturers too, which is kind of a ripple effect that now the idea is validated. But this idea has been around long enough and people have seen them. It's not like this is an unknown. It's not like it's like when I'm talking about face displays that no one knows what that experience is like. Folding phones have been around for a bit. I've shown people folding phones like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen those." Or like, you open the book, you're like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. It's like a little mini tablet." All right, yeah, I'm not going to buy one, but I get it. Like there's nothing magical about this. It's not like I also brought up, it's not disruptive like Vision Pro was going to be the next phase of consumer computing. This is just what if a phone and a tablet had a baby, right? So people are much clearer on this idea and have much more experience with it. I don't think this is going to be, I think this is really just going to be the way that people show that they spent the most on an iPhone. And I don't know what the consumer market like that looks like at the end of 2026 with so many people struggling. A lot of people are going to show theirs off, just like a lot of people tried to show off Vision Pro, but a lot is going to be what? 2 million the first year, maybe 5 million in a year. That's a very small piece of the 1.3 billion smartphones sold over 2026. And I don't know how many people are really trying to flex when a lot of people are struggling. Like, you're not going to get a great carrier deal on a $2,500 phone. Yeah, so I mean, there are lots of comments on this. Ron, isn't Samsung making some of Apple's parts too? I mean, they always are. The screen technology, I think, is almost always Samsung in iPhones now. Command control device. Yeah, flex on them pores with the Fold D iPhone. That's freedom in the USA. 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 Only rich people. Only rich people. Like, man, I'm talking to so many parents too. Are like, I don't know what to get my kid. I can't get them an iPhone. Yeah, because they're expensive. It's pretty crazy. Future, it's here. Does anyone have the numbers of how many camera ultras that sell per year? Is it more than 5 million per manufacturer? And often it's not. Very, very, very generally, if you just take Android, phones above $1,000, I think, represent around 10% of smartphones sold. Apple's different. They have like a 30% split, 30% every year buying older iPhones, 30% buying base model, and 30% buying more expensive iPhones, upgraded iPhones, and Pro iPhones. It's almost like a perfect pie graph 30. And often when a mid-tier iPhone flops, like the iPhone Air, it seems to just drive people up into higher iPhones. So when the iPhone Air flopped, it actually caused an increase in iPhone Pro sales, because that's how a cult works. But when it comes to Android, very generally, all Android devices, if you're priced above 1,000%, you're really only courting about 10% of the overall Android consumer base. Per manufacturer, that can also fall apart. So like a Xiaomi might only be 5% of their sales are above $1,000. Samsung, like Apple, has made their middle tier so mediocre that it is somehow encouraging more people to buy Galaxy Ultra than sticking with Galaxy S or Galaxy S Plus, which is stupid, because the Galaxy S Plus is an $1,100 phone that seems to only exist to hurt you, so you'll want to go up and buy the Ultra. That's kind of where we're at all around. But I do want to wrap this up, just because we're running a little long, like we always run. If I say that my podcast is 2.5 hours, I'll go to 3 hours. See, I can't let that happen. I have to say my podcast is a 2-hour podcast so we can get to 2.5 hours. We got the little tease from Huawei that the next line of Pura are coming out, but I'm very anxious because I think I'm pretty confident in the leaks and rumors that Huawei is gonna skip a Pura Ultra. We're gonna get a Pura 90 Pro and a Pura 90 Pro Max, and it's still gonna have some cool camera tech. I'm expecting to see the return of the variable aperture on the camera. This is written up by GSM Arena. They've got just some like photos and teases, but on the Huawei Twitter account, they announced that there will be a keynote in Kuala Lumpur on July 14th, where we're finally going to get to see the Pura 90 series phones. But I don't know. I'm really sad to think that 2026 might be the last year of Ultra smartphones. We've seen some leaks and rumors on an Oppo Find X10 Ultra. Vivo looks like it's going to be doing Pro and Pro Max, which is really annoying. I'm not sure about Xiaomi. I haven't seen too many leaks or rumors on a Xiaomi Ultra for the next generation of Xiaomi devices. It would be really sad if we finally hit this peak where we have these incredible camera sensors. They're directly competing against micro four thirds mirrorless camera bodies. We're finally getting manufacturers giving us better accessories, photography focused capabilities, lenses and adapters and filters and mounts, all the things that would turn the phone into just this powerhouse content creation computing platform. And Huawei has been one of the sort of tip of the spear kinds of companies. When a new camera technology comes out, Huawei has been embracing incredible photography performance for years. Really, really a shame that we kind of lost them as a competitive option in the Android space because of the last Trump administration. But to not have an Ultra feels like a really damaging omission. And it would make me really sad if we finally made all this progress and then all these companies just had to take a step back. Like, put the Ultra out and make it expensive. Know that it's going to really hurt to put out a $2,500 phone kit. But like, man, it is so good. I can't tell you how exciting it is to pick up a Vivo or to pick up a Xiaomi and just see how far you can drive that camera experience. And it's so saddening to know that so many of these people out there who own $1,200, $1,500 phones never push that experience beyond like, I held it up to my lunch and I pushed the circle and now I have a circle and the circle gives me a picture of my lunch. And like, it's exactly the same mediocre photo they could have taken from a $300 phone. And they don't try to take better photos of their kids running around. You've seen those parents, right? You go to an event or you go out to eat, you go to a restaurant. I'm trying to get those moments in darkly cozy lit restaurants, booth lighting, and it's real cozy and intimate and it's dark. And, my daughter kind of leans into my dad. And I have a photo of grandfather and granddaughter. And it's sharp and it's clear and it's cozy and it's intimate and it's just an amazing moment for my kid and my grandfather. And the people that are like, I want to get a photo of grandpa and granddaughter. Now pose and look at the camera and smile. Oh, when I threw the flash, oops, I accidentally threw let me turn off the flash. No, I need the flash because it's too dark in here. And that experience, right? And that's lame. Everyone's just like looks pained and there's a grimace of a smile on their face. And no one wants to look back at that photo ever again. Like, that photo sucks. But me being sort of like, casual, and I just kind of like hold the phone up and I click this little volume rocker and I just hold steady for a split second just as my daughter leans in. You can kind of see this little glow of a smile on her face. My dad's trying to look like he's too cool, but like he loves that, my daughter loves him. Like, that's a photo I'm going to go and frame. I'm going to make a print of that on canvas. I'm going to do a little edit, maybe make it black and white, but I could never have gotten that if I'd held a mirrorless camera up in their face or if the flash on my phone had fired because it's just too dark because I have crappy camera sensors on my $1,000 iPhone. I can't take photos in the dark. And that's like nothing for a Vivo. And it would just make me so sad if we lost that. But no consumers seem to understand that that's what the advantages are when you do go up to the bleeding edge of mobile camera tech. And I don't know how to get that across. For a couple of weeks now on this podcast, it's been all about how do we improve the consumer educational experience on new consumer tech? Because people have no idea what this stuff can really do. They're buying third and fourth generation products and they're still doing basically the same thing that they were doing like 3 generations ago. If they're keeping up with buying newer things, there's been little to encourage or push or try or test or play with this stuff. And it's still like, well, this is how I scroll my TikToks and I take a photo of my lunch and I make my kids pose for a photo and I take a portrait orientation photo in the full body. I need to do full body and it's a vertical photo. And then I'll show them, like, my daughter did this incredible face painting. She got this incredible face painting work done for Dia de los Muertos, and I did a telephoto head and shoulders portrait. And there's kind of like hard lighting, it's sunset light, so there are these hard angled shadows on this like skull makeup, and it's just an incredible portrait that I can't show you because I don't share photos of my daughter on social media. But like I show the other parents, and they're like, "Wow!" And you're like, you have a $1,200 iPhone. I'm sorry, your Halloween photos look like garbage. They suck so bad. There's a mom who has a Pixel. She has a Pixel 8 Pro. And we do get into some of those conversations because she's African American. And I will still credit Pixels still do the best in bringing up the chocolatier, coppery tones of darker skin. No other phone, I think, has managed that kind of just full auto processing nearly as well. I can shoot raw on a Vivo and make the photo look better. It still doesn't quite stick the landing quite like the Pixel software processing does. So for her, it's like, yeah, Pixel 8 Pro makes a lot of sense because her family is gorgeous, and the Pixel really, really brings out what makes them such an attractive family. But it's like we're just kind of skulked over to the side, like no one knows, no one gets it. Every single event we go to, we're the people that always get tasked to take all the photos. You must have a real nice camera. And you have 3 circles on the back of your iPhone. Why did you buy the iPhone? Why? What are you doing? I'm tired. I'm so tired. I'm tired, boss. Hold on. Let me just take a sip of coffee here, and I think we need to I think we need to wrap up this podcast because I'm just getting saltier and saltier. Yeah, future, it's here. I don't think we are going to be peaking going forward with 1 over 1.3 inch type sensors. The 1 over 1.12 on the Vivo and the Oppo is really good, but man, there's just something about those Xiaomi 1 inch types. They're so good. Um, oh yeah, Donald Day saying candids with an OK sign here on the hand. Can't I'll take a blurry in the moment movement broken candid over an awkwardly staged everyone smiling at the camera. Again, like I was telling you, my grandmother's 90th. The photo that was worth everything is just this cute little shoulders up moment where she's looking over at her great grandson, and Felix is just doing something radically adorable because he's just a scamp of a little toddler. My brother's son is just, so was so much fun on this trip, and you can see her just glow. And it's not the staged moment where she's got her rehearsed smile and it kind of hits her eyes. It's not the family photo where we're all standing behind her and we're all so happy to be there. We were so happy to be there, but no one likes getting ready to take a photo. It's pulling teeth and it's painful and everybody hates it. And just the moment in between shots where I got the one image of her not posing, not playing to the camera, that's the photo. That's the photo that, like, my grandmother at 90, I'm gonna treasure. I'm gonna cherish. I'm gonna make a print of it. This is like who she was, how sharp she is, how funny she is, the stories she can tell, the twinkle in her eye seeing her great grandson doing something cute. That's the moment. The candid, that's the moment. And I love it. I love it so much. From Rob Aarons, I get that quote at every school event I attend. You must have a real nice camera. I don't know anything about photography. The camera does all my photography for me. Command control device, you don't educate consumers because they are conditioned into thinking Apple is the market leader and that only they can reinvent the camera. Oppo and Vivo are just deep-seek hallucinations spreading Chinese propaganda. Are you not a patriot? And for Mountain Dew Lou, it's true. Real tone is a thing. You can thank Google for that. I get that as someone of Mexican heritage. Many phones do make my skin pale. So I'm I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic, but I'm very pale skin, and I have unpleasant combination reds and yellows in my face that, man, you're absolutely right, man. Some phones, and especially phones that I really like Vivos and Xiaomi's, can fall victim to this too. Man, you get like patchy, splotchy yellow HDR, and like that is not what I look like. I know my skin is bad. I have bad skin, but it's not that. But Ron GKP, this is a great point, Ron. I remember some guy who wrote a book about taking better pictures. Some kind of like take better photos, smartphone photography for noobs. Um, I think I remember that too, Ron. There was probably someone who did that. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast because I got a bug up my butt. About a year ago, I was talking about how I was going to write some updates for my photography book, and life kind of kicked my butt. I never did stick the landing on refreshing the book. And so the book hasn't been refreshed since the end of 2023, which is a pretty long time in the world of smartphone photography. I think next year we're going to hit a smartphone camera apocalypse and all this stuff is going to get worse at higher prices. But 2026, I think, is unfortunately kind of our peak before that roller coaster plummets off the edge. So I'm not done yet, but I have spent the last couple months massively rewriting major sections of the book. I used to have a chapter in the book that I tried to show the differences between Android, Apple, and Windows phone cameras. So that section has been archived. It's still in the book, but it's like a separate chapter at the end of the book. And instead of that, I spend more time talking about basic photography composition, literally just what you can learn from pull phone from pocket, push circle, put phone back in pocket. That is important to understand how it works. So I've expanded on that as part of a chapter. I've replaced almost all of the sample photos. I have a whole new chapter that I'm really excited about that talks about lenses and focal lengths. Because when I originally wrote this book, most phones only had one camera sensor. So zoom was all done by cropping. So now I've done things like I've actually shared it on the private chat for the patreon.com/somegadgetguy. I shared the photos from the new section on camera focal lengths. So you can see my face get warped and distorted by different focal lengths at different distances to try and keep the same framing. This is the 10-year anniversary of when I published my book. And this is also one of the most sizable re-edits that I've ever done. And I am also, it makes me happy and it makes me excited because as I've been going through these book revisions, I've gone all the way back to like the original frame of this, which was written as a series of blog posts. And I hit like 150 pages and I decided like I should turn this into a book instead of a series of blog posts. The book is now 300 pages long. And it starts now more appropriately with basic photo technique. Then it expands on composition. Then it expands on, ways to be inspired by other kinds of art. Then it expands even more on some pretty stupid deep dive technical explanation on things like sensor size, focal length, equivalence, background blur. It goes even deeper. I even have sections, discussing the technology of higher resolution video and what that can mean for different presentations of video. And I have grown significantly as a photographer over the last 10 years. I think I was a pretty good photographer 10 years ago. I think I am a much better photographer today. And the photos that are going into the book now are just a completely different level of composition, capability, better tools. I'm getting more out of these tools because the cameras definitely have gotten better over 10 years, but I better understand what I can get out of those tools. And that's why I'm stoked, because that's a part of the book. I've been able to live what I wrote in this book. And what has made me a better photographer is in this book. So very, very soon, I'm polishing up. I'm doing my last just proofreads. I'm going to give it to a couple friends and family members just to see if I've missed anything. Just I don't want to have to do a bunch of decimal point revisions because I made stupid mistakes in grammar and stuff like that. But the new photos, I'm really excited to show people. New links to more recent videos. I mean, there are videos that were linked in this book from 10 years ago. And the last bit of this that's also kind of exciting is I might have a solution to get the book on other platforms beyond Amazon, and I might be able to work with some of these platforms to make it more accessible to libraries. So I won't make as much money on this revision of the book, a revision of the book that is 2 years in the making. This is a lot of work to revamp this much of the book, and I'm excited because I might make less money on it. But you might have an opportunity now to work with local libraries to check the book out. As an ebook, it's still going to be an ebook. I don't feel there's any value in making this a printed physical book just because of how technology cycles so quickly. But you might be able to read it now and check it out with your library card. I can't tell you how exciting that is to me. I'm so excited. It feels so much more real to self-publish a book and think, it's in my local library. Like, now it's real. I've been working on this book for over a decade, and it's now real that someone can read my book for free. Also, this is important. So from Ted, Ted says, "Make us buy the new edition again!" Exclamation point. If you have the book on Kindle, if you purchase the book through Amazon, it will get updated. I'm not setting up a new ISBN. It is the same book. It is an update, and I'm going to go through the Amazon process of just updating the edition. I've also gotten a little bit better about the technology of publishing. When I first put the book together, it was a ridiculous file size for a Kindle book, and I think I found a better way to do higher quality image compression so that the book is actually going to take up less space on your on your Kindle. The book will take up less space on a Kindle, and the photo quality is actually going to get better. Fingers crossed, I think I have it sorted. But as I look at these other platforms for publishing, I'm not entirely sure how they will handle future editions of the book. I still have not found a great way to do direct sale, so I am going to be looking at platforms. You will be able to purchase the book through a storefront like Amazon. But if you've already purchased the book, probably in the next couple of weeks, it might take as long as a month, you should get an update where you can refresh the book and you'll get the new edition of Take Better Photos, Smartphone Photography for Nerds, for Noobs, and for nerds. You can be a nerd too. And you won't have to spend an extra dime to get all of the new work that I've put into it. Oh, Aditya, I wish. Does that mean we get a 10-year anniversary printed edition with an SGG autograph? I just can't. I keep looking like it isn't too bad if I want to do a run of them, but I just don't know how to sell that. And I'm hoping there's a new refresh of the book that's not as labor intensive in 2027. And I don't want to, finish this, print it out, try and sell them off, have storage, have like a stock of these older books while I'm trying to then write new sections and update new sections for a future edition of it. So we'll see. But that's the big news. So one of the things that's been taking time away from some of my videos and reviews and editorials, the spare moments that I get, I've been furiously writing and scribbling away and revising and updating and shooting new photos and examples and screenshotting, because this book has always been a labor of love. I finished it just before my daughter was born. She is the first photo of the book. She is the special dedication. She was the inspiration for getting this done. And this is the 10-year anniversary of the book. So I'm stoked to share that with everybody moving forward. So, folks, we got to put a pin in it. I am exhausted. This was so much fun. I'm glad we could come back and chat this stuff out. I might just try a couple, because we didn't really do a pajama podcast last month, or this first episode coming back was a lot of really heavy news, and we might just want to just kind of shoot the breeze on some wacky stuff. I might just say next week, let's keep it real casual. If we don't have really fun, awesome gadget announcements, then let's just talk about movies and music and TV shows and stuff and just keep it really, really casual. But for folks, I'm really excited for what's coming down the pipe. I have some really big news and moments to share, and I'm really stoked to have people along for the ride. So, folks, we're gonna wrap it there. I want you all to have an amazing week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you all here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe, take care of yourselves so you can keep taking care of others around you and be that amazing tech neighbor that all your family and friends need, because they're not getting properly educated on the tech that they buy. I'll catch you back. I love you all. Be well.